Hello? Yeah. Where's my gavel? I don't have one. Okay, this is the Tuesday, September 24th, 2024 City Council meeting. And I'll ask the city clerk to call the roll, please.
Councilmember Orgill, Councilmember Weiss,
Here.
Councilmember Whalen,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Renagi,
Here.
Mayor Kim.
Yes, here. Councilmember Orgill's feeling under the weather tonight, so he won't be with us this evening. Okay, Councilmember Whalen, you have the pledge.
Please stand and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, as we're coming out of closed session, I'll ask our city attorney if there's any reportable items out of closed session.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The City Council convened in closed session pursuant to 3 items listed on the closed session agenda. The real property negotiations were not considered and were continued to the next meeting. Councilmember Orgill was not present at closed session. As to the remaining items, no reportable action was taken.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have a bit of extraordinary business this evening. We have a proclamation declaring September 2024 as Hunger Action Month. I'll ask Ann Bellier, our Executive Director of the Food Pantry, to come up, and I'll meet you at the podium. Okay. So I have a few talking points. Tonight, we have a proclamation recognizing the month of September 2024 as Hunger Action Month in Laguna Beach. Hunger Action Month is a nationwide campaign that unites food banks and the public to inspire people to take action against hunger and raise awareness for those facing food and nutritional insecurity in our communities. In Orange County alone, there are 330,000 individuals and 85,000 children who are food insecure. Just in the first half of 2024, the Orange County Food Bank and Second Harvest Food Bank of Orange County have collectively recorded a monthly average of over 800,000 pounds of food distribution and have distributed over 29 million pounds of food through its partners. So I'm going to have Ann Bellier receive a proclamation from me, and then you guys can say a few words if you like. Okay, it's a long proclamation, so I'm not going to read all of it, but I'll try to hit the high points here. Hunger and poverty are issues of vital concern in California, where 1 in 5 Californians face food insecurity on a daily basis and do not know where their next meal will come from. Everyone needs nutritious foods to thrive, and people who are working hard to provide for themselves and their families. Yet over 338,000 individuals, including over 85,000 children here in Orange County, are food insecure. The City of Laguna Beach is committed to taking steps to combat hunger in every part of our community and to provide additional resources that those in Laguna Beach need. The City of Laguna Beach is committed to working with the Orange County Hunger Alliance and educating people about the role and importance of food banks and food care in addressing hunger and raising awareness of the need to devote more resources and attention to hunger issues. In the first half of 2024, Orange County Food Bank and Second Harvest Food Bank collectively distributed 29 million pounds of food. And Laguna Beach Food Pantry serves over 1,000 families per week. That is more than 100,000 pounds of groceries weekly to Laguna Beach families, seniors, workers, and students. Food banks and other organizations across the country, including the members of the Orange County Hunger Alliance, will host numerous events throughout the month of September to bring awareness and help end food insecurities in our local community. Now, therefore, I, Sue Kempf, as Mayor of Laguna Beach, hereby declare September 2024 as Hunger Action Month in Laguna Beach. I not only wish to acknowledge the commendable efforts of the Orange County Food Bank, Second Harvest Food Bank, and the Laguna Beach Food Pantry in addressing food insecurity, but also strongly encourage the residents of Laguna Beach to take proactive steps towards eradicating hunger. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ann Bellier for a few comments.
Thank you for this opportunity. We appreciate the proclamation. I'm here with my esteemed colleague, Malaya Carey from Second Harvest Food Bank. We are a proud partner of Second Harvest, rescuing food from 25 local grocery stores, providing groceries to our families that need us. We appreciate the community effort and the community support because we couldn't do it alone. And Laguna Beach truly embraces us. Our volunteers last year donated about $750,000 worth of volunteer time. So very grateful for the support, continued support, and I'll turn it over to Malaya.
I'll just say a few words on behalf of Second Harvest Food Bank and also Orange County Food Bank. We're part of the OC Hunger Alliance together, but just a big thank you to Mayor Kemp and the City Council and the City of Laguna Beach for your overwhelming support. I know you guys feed the families here in Laguna Beach with our wonderful partnership with Laguna Food Pantry, but families come from all over Orange County, I'm sure, to your food pantry as well. So September is Hunger Action Month. It's just our biggest advocacy awareness month, raising awareness for food insecurity in Orange County because folks don't often realize we don't see hunger, right? It's a hidden crisis. So as the mayor mentioned, at Second Harvest, we are serving about 440,000 individuals every month via our partner network like Laguna Food Pantry. So this is still a major issue in the county. So we appreciate you guys elevating this issue throughout the month. We go to all 34 cities in Orange County. So thank you for being part of that Orange County brotherhood and partnership as well. So thank you.
Yeah, okay, follow me. Okay, at this time, we'll open up for public communications. Anything that's not on our agenda this evening, please come forward. Watch out for Erin. She's gonna wipe you out and get you to the podium.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members, and Laguna Beach community. My name is Erin Slattery, and I'm the CEO of the Laguna Beach Chamber of Commerce. The Taste of Laguna Food and Music Festival is less than 2 weeks away on Thursday, October 3rd at the Festival of Arts grounds. This is why I'm so busy running around. So this event is a lot of fun and it always sells out. So buy your tickets now and celebrate our local restaurants, including Acai Republic, Alessa, Blessed Being, Broadway, Brussels Bistro, Carmelita's, C'est La Vie, Cliff, Driftwood Kitchen, Equator Coffee, Equator Coffee, Evans Gourmet, Farmhouse, Gelato Del Mar, Gigi's Bistro, Harvest at the Ranch, Larson at Hotel Laguna, Inn at the Mission, Jar Sweets and Things, Jedediah Coffee, Las Brisas, Laguna Beach Beer Company, Lost Pier Cafe, Mendocino Farms, Miki, Mulan, Nick's Laguna Beach, Nirvana Kitchen and Pantry, Oak, OEB Breakfast Company, Oliver's Osteria, Peony Chinese, Pizza Bar, Primal 24/7, Rooftop, Rosewood, Royal Hawaiian, Salt Creek Grill, Sapphire, south of Nick's Laguna Beach, Splashes at Surf and Sand, Starfish, Tango, Wine Gallery, and more. Thank you.
Wow, I think we're all getting hungry now.
Hello, good evening, City Council and Mayor Kemp. My name is Michelle Heiberg. I'm a 35-year resident of Laguna Beach. I have 3 recent graduates from Laguna Beach High School, the Falkowski children. And I am here today asking the City of Laguna Beach to support holistic wellness as a mental wellness solution in Laguna Beach. Just Gather has been here for 2 years. We've done many events. I've sent you the deck, and we are hoping that you might consider us as an addition to have a well space at St. Catherine's where we can serve more during the day. I'm also here to announce that I'm on a mission with our team to help everyone in Laguna Beach love each other more. So with that, we've started our social enterprise, the School of Gratitude, Orange County, and we're beginning our first classes October 19th at the Laguna Beach Cultural Arts Center at 10 a.m. I'll be writing press on this, so you'll hear more, but I'm asking that the city of Laguna Beach might join us in uniting our community around mental wellness, holistic wellness, so our children can recognize their gifts and bloom. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Good evening, City Council. Thank you for your leadership. My name is Hillary McCarthy, and I'm the art lead of Just Gather and a professor at LCAD. I'm here to ask for your support for Just Gather. As an artist, I know how art heals. I will be teaching children, teens, and Gen Z paintings and arts and crafts. Here's the painting I donated to Just Gather. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. My name is Whitney Weinfordner. I am here as the music lead for Just Gather Wellness and Mental Wellness Matters. And I'm asking our town to support Just Gather. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Lida Martin. I am here. I have a complaint with the trash company, the new trash company.
Lita, can you put your microphone down a little bit?
Like
There you go.
that?
Yeah.
I'm short. Yeah. Okay. Is it okay now?
Yeah, it's good.
Thank you. Yeah, the new trash company, they raised the price of the trash for my property from $63.35 to originally $733 in 1 month. Like in June, we paid, May and June, we paid $63.35. And then all of a sudden, we got a bill for $733.90. So I tried to contact them. They couldn't believe it. First, they told me it was a mistake. It was a decimal mistake. Then the lady said she will get back with me. They never got back with me. I kept calling. They said, send your proofs, and I did. Again, I didn't hear. And finally, with the help of one of the council member, I got them their attention, and they responded to me. They said, okay, we reduce it to almost $200, 198 something. And I said, and then what we are reducing, we had 4 trash cans. Now they want to give me 1 trash can once a week, which is the same. Times 4, it's 800, and now it's 200. I just think overnight to raise that much is too much. And they didn't even give us time to digest it. At least say we keep it for a while till next year we do this. They just did it abruptly. So it's my first time to come to these kind of things. I don't know how it works. So I came to just say, I don't know what to do. So that's.
So Nita's, Julie from CR&R is here, so she's going to give a report. So you might just have a seat, and she's going to be here.
Thank you.
Is this a business or a residence they're talking about?
We have 8 units, but
Okay.
they are, but the units are not, they are sleeping, which the 63 was established with this help of the city, Laguna City trash department, waste management. They analyzed it. We have no, because we have a sleeping room, and we don't have much trash, and that they just established it May 2024. And I have the letter, I send it to them, that from May onward, it's going to be always $63.35 according to their finding. So we were paying $63.35, and then all of a sudden it was $733.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So Nita, just hang loose. Julie's here, and she's back here. So why don't you just, she has a, can you raise your hand, Julie? There she is. Here you go. Hey, Mike.
Hi, good afternoon, council, staff, and community. Mike Bean in the Laguna Blue Belt Coalition. Could you please load? There you go. Thank you. This is our 13th annual Laguna Blue Belt contest. Next slide, please. As I said, it's the 13th annual. It began with Ginger Wallace and Charlotte Mazurek started it. And this year, Ann Gertz was our coordinator. The first place went to Chilling Gulls by Rob Mitchell, and he won $400. The next one, please, was Dora the Explorer. And part of the contest is a chance for us to see all of the incredible sea life, both large fish as well as smaller critters. Dora the Explorer was Eli Cashman, and second place was $200. Next slide, please. Third place for $100 was Nature's Artistry by Michael Tanaka. Next one, please. Honorable mention, Eel in the Rocks by Andrew Moore. Look at the clarity on these photos. They're just incredible. Next slide, please. Honorable mention is Packed In Like Sardines by Peter Black. And the next one, please, is May Gray by Christopher Alwine. Thank you. Now on to the professional winners. Our judges this year were Rich Gurman, who's Project O here in Laguna, Michelle Steers, who's a marine scientist, and Katie Vallette, who's an oceanographer up in Monterey. First place for 500 was, next slide, please, was Shredding the Guitar. That's a guitar fish by Noah Gilbert. When I first saw this, I couldn't believe it. I thought it was Photoshop, but our experts have confirmed that's the real deal. Next slide, please. Noah won $500 from the Blue Belt. The second place for 300 was Below the Surface by Stan Monitz. This reminds us that kelp sequesters carbon 20 times more than a kelp forest. So 1 acre of kelp would be equivalent to 20 acres of trees. And Laguna Beach is very unique by our geography to help kelp forests. Newport doesn't really have them, or North San Clemente. And that's part of the contest, is to showcase all of these important features of our Blue Belt. Next slide, please, is third place by Andre Magaro. This is a lovely photo. If you go to our website, you can see the full photo. Next slide, please, is Flush by Alan Weeks. Oh, that's Sluggish. No, wait. Yeah, Sluggish by Kaylin Housewright. Next slide is Flush by Alec Weeks. Next slide, A Perfect Day by Seth Wilhelm. And online Best of the Rest this year, second time, is Carrie Mancinelli. You can visit the Laguna Blue Belt to see all of these in their full color. I'm going. And going forward, we urge the City Council to endorse a petition for citywide protection. I want to thank you all for your support of these years. It's something that we're all very proud of. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for all this great work and for showing us.
I have a presentation. It's the Burm Buddies presentation. Good evening, Mayor Kemp and council members. My name is Ray Heimstra, Associate Director at Orange County Coastkeeper, and today I'll provide an update on the Laguna Blue Belt's Aliso Beach Wildlife Habitat Monitoring Program, also known as the Burm Buddies. So, wait. There we go. All right, next slide, please. Thank you. First of all, we want to say thanks to the City of Laguna Beach for funding this program. With your support, the Aliso Burm Buddies program has been able to conduct weekly outreach at the Burm and monitor human and wildlife activity in Aliso Creek, Aliso Beach, and Treasure Island. The Burm Buddies have been sharing educational information and materials with visitors, including stickers, brochures, and a watershed model for kids, along with a map of the Aliso Creek watershed. From August 2023 to now, the Burm Buddies has conducted 48 outreach events and made 267 educational contacts. Next slide, please. Our findings so far from August 2023 to July 2024, volunteers, interns, and staff members took 165 surveys to record human activities, disturbances, and wildlife behavior in this area. There were 1,425 recorded incidents of hazards and disturbances during this time. This included disturbing wildlife habitat, digging out the berm to surf the creek, collecting biota, viewing the breached berm, and swimming in the creek. Most hazard and disturbances occurred in the berm and creek area. The graph on the bottom left shows wildlife presence. The most frequently observed animals were seagulls. There was less variation in wildlife species in the Burm and Creek area when compared to Aliso and Treasure Island. On the right, this graph shows that when there are more hazards and disturbances, there is significantly lower wildlife abundance at Aliso Creek. As you move right across the graph, the wildlife counts decrease with increasing values of hazards and disturbances. This tells us that wildlife tends to flee the area when there are more disturbances to their habitat, making them hesitant to return. We also presented a poster of our data at the 2024 National Environmental Monitoring Conference in Garden Grove. That was sent to you as an attachment and is being used in our outreach at the Burm. Next slide, please. So our next steps, many protected species reside in the Burm and Creek habitat that require more research. We hope to use our research and outreach efforts to protect the Burm and prevent further threats to wildlife and provide equitable beach access. We look forward to continuing our educational outreach to the community, collecting more data from our human and wildlife surveys so we can all work together to protect public access, sensitive wildlife, and our marine protected area. Thank you.
Ray, what do you mean by protecting the berm? What are you doing exactly?
Protecting the berm actually is protecting the ecology. So the berm is as intact, separates a freshwater and saltwater ecosystem. It plays an important role. Wildlife actually lives in the berm. So when the berm is dug out, that sends all that freshwater wildlife into the ocean where it's killed. And that impacts the ocean wildlife. It also kills everything in the berm. So, that happens naturally occasionally, but constantly digging it out has a significant impact.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Happy fall. I'll keep mixing things up a little bit for topics. Back to the pool. It's likely that the school board is going to approve moving forward with their $19 million pool project after a study session this Thursday. This will result in residents losing current shallow water, wheelchair ramp access, parking, and most importantly, the elimination of the beloved wading or baby pool. When the district starts demolition, no pool will be available for anyone, students or residents, for nearly a year. I'm repeating my plea for an improved working relationship with the school district. Had the city and the school board worked together, a coordinated plan could have been developed that addressed resident and student needs with absolutely no interruption for anyone and save taxpayers millions of dollars. While it's clear the district failed to involve the city early on in their plans, the city's now been aware of the situation and its impact on residents for over a year. On March 12th of this year, you wisely voted unanimously to approve a dedicated community pool and to do so with an implied priority project. Unfortunately, since then, it appears little to no material progress has been made to avoid resident loss of aquatic capabilities. The school board is now regularly speaking for the city and making what I believe to be contradictory comments. For instance, in their publication today, the city, quote, "The city has said that it is unlikely a second pool will be constructed in the near future." Another quote, "The wading baby pool is not used much and is not important to the city." These comments from the school board just don't jive with the city's unanimous vote and their statement to make it a priority. The city council is facing some very difficult financial decisions going forward. Parking structures, new parks, housing, firehouses, Laguna Canyon Road, Recreation Center, the Promenade, you all know the list. It's a long list and many support it and many oppose items on it. Most of those requests for funding are for expansion of capabilities for the community. I'd ask, shouldn't the priority be to prevent the loss of existing services before we start adding new services? We can't turn the clock back, and it's unfortunate that the city and the school board didn't work together to be better partners, but it's not too late to do better going forward. Thanks for your time today.
Gary, I have a question for you. What would you have had the city do in a partnership to avoid this?
Most of that has to do with timing. We knew a year ago, if we could have sat down with the school board, allowed the city to move forward aggressively, you would have had to move fast with the plan to build a pool, pick a site, go through those hurdles. Then the school could use that pool. And then after that's built, they could build their pool and there would be no interruption of services. Using two pools, they could be smaller and more cost efficient for all taxpayers.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, I'm Gail Onodera, and I am helping lead Love Laguna Beach. This will be our third annual, and it's on October 5th. So it's coming up, not this Saturday, but the following. And it's growing every year. We're very excited. We've got 24 projects on the website right now. And a lot of those are actually city projects. We're cleaning up the planters on 3rd Street. We're going to be redoing some paint on the lampposts in South Laguna that are all peeling. We're cleaning up Lane Park next to the pickleball. There's an area and some steps that are all overgrown. So we're trying to do projects that benefit everybody in Laguna Beach and love everybody in Laguna Beach. Boys and Girls Club, the youth shelter, we're at TOW replanting their garden. We just now added Skipper Carrillo. We're going to help him with his yard and clean up some very overgrown ivy. And we're going to be making jewelry at the Glenwood House to help them with their gala that's coming up to auction off those items. So there's, like I said, 24 projects. So there's something for everybody, very family friendly. We're doing a ton of outreach and trying to get the word out so that everybody can be aware. And we're also asking for sponsorship. If anyone would like to sponsor, we're trying to help financially for all these projects as well by raising money. So we're going to be supplying the youth shelter with new sports equipment and a shed. And we're going to be doing the day labor spot out in the canyon to beautify that as well. So we're really excited. I think everyone will see the benefits of this. We'll see how this is going to benefit our city in a lot of ways, not to mention working together, volunteering, which is really great for everybody to do and to feel good about and make a difference. And working side by side, you'll see the t-shirts all around on that Saturday. So everyone will start at 8 a.m. at the Susie Q. We'll be up there, the radio station. We have all CERT and everybody hopefully represented. And then at 9 o'clock, everyone will go to their projects that they've signed up for. And so it'll be kind of a big community event where everybody will be out and about helping from 9 to 12, or maybe less or more, depending on the project. And so we just want everyone to know and to check out the website, lovelagunabeach.org. Look at the projects, see if you can get involved, support in any way, or just come to the kickoff and check it out. We'd love to have everybody join in.
Hey, Gail, do you have any feel for how many volunteers you're going to have?
Well, we have projects enough for about 218 volunteers. We've got over about 110 already signed up. So we prefer people to go on the website to register ahead of time. However, show up that day if you realize you can do it at that last minute, and we'll have projects that you can just fold into. So we're hoping for over 200. We had about 200 last year.
Okay. So do you need any help from us? I could put it in my newsletter.
That'd be fantastic.
Maybe
You want me to?
maybe Cassie, maybe we could put it in the newsletter.
Yeah, and
Okay.
we're hoping that CR&R will still supply us with a 3-yard dumpster somewhere. We'll have to figure out where you all want that for all the yard waste that we're going to have for all these projects. So that'd be fantastic. So it's a great community event, everyone working together. So appreciate that.
Thank you.
Do you want me to leave any of these anywhere?
Yeah, leave them. Yeah,
Okay.
for sure. Come on up, next speaker.
Good evening. My name is next speaker. No, it's my name is T. And I'm here for the voiceless animals, the children, the elderly, and the fear-ridden. So that's why my voice gets a little loud sometimes. I'm very passionate on when I speak. I was told by a police officer to keep my voice lower. So I will do that for you, because I don't want to go against the police here. You know, they have guns. So I was told by one of the members, one of the residents of Laguna Beach, that I haven't said anything about George Weiss. So I went to the library, hence these yellow cards, and I did some research on you, Mr. Weiss, and it was very hard to find anything that I could critique. But I did find one thing.
Should have called me.
Okay, so
Happy to talk to
you. You wrote on your page, you said, here's some of the changes I got made for you. That's incorrect grammar. What you should say is, here are some of the changes I've made for you, right? You worked in corporate America as an executive for major telecom companies, including AT&T and MCI. With Grammar-like, here's some of the changes I got made for you. And now you're on city council with grammar like that. I wonder, I don't know.
Culpa.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Who proofreads your stuff? No. All right. So, second, Bob Whalen. On his webpage, it says he's very well qualified. Not just qualified, not even well qualified, but very well qualified. I'm pretty sure you're only up there because you're rich and because your last name has whale in it. Miss Kemp, on your website, it says you've done your best to be open-minded. I've listened to you on The Voice of Laguna, and you shut down Ed's ideas faster than COVID shut down the economy. And you say that public health and safety comes first. Why do so many people and animals get hit by cars in Laguna Beach with no action to stop, with no major action to stop or prevent it, like barriers or bridges? Why are the sirens on all the city vehicles obnoxiously loud? They damage the eardrums of thousands of Laguna Beach residents daily. You like to brag about how much you travel. The people in Laguna Beach like to brag how much they travel. They've been to Europe. They know how Europeans care for their citizens. They have great sounds in their vehicles. It's called bass, right? So it's really high bass, so it doesn't damage the eardrums that they do here. I don't know why you can't, integrate that. Did you speed up the time? I think you guys deleted a minute.
That's a tough act to follow. It's free speech. What a great thing we have. Billy Freed from KXFM Radio. First thing I'd like to point out and say is thank you, Dave Kiff, for that article that you wrote in this week's Independent, elucidating every step that we need to take to secure Laguna Canyon Road and make the changes necessary for it to be safer and more serving of the community. I think you really laid it out beautifully. I love your transparency and how you're communicating with the public. Now I hope we can see some action from it. And I just want to give you guys a report. We are 9 days into our new programming on KXFM Radio, and I'm just elated with the breadth and scope of the voices that we have, the talent in this town. I encourage all of you, everybody listening, to tune in and turn on to our new neighborhood block party with people like Greg McGillivray, Heidi Miller, Diane Armitage, the great George Dubin, Chris Prelitz, sharing their gifts, their interests, everything about our community, including news updates on the hour. And we are working as we speak with protocols with fire safety and police to be a beacon to our community in the event of an emergency. So it's really remarkable. 80 people contributing to our station for free. I don't know where else this happens, what other businesses can have people doing things that they love to contribute to our community. It's a super great gift. I hope you will all support it. I hope you'll all come on because really transparency is what it's about and allowing our community to know everything that we're up to so we can share. This is long form journalism, 24 hours a day that we will podcast so you guys can listen at your leisure. And I hope you'll continue to support us and spread the word. Thank you.
Thank you, Billy.
Good evening, Council and Mayor Kempf. My name is Frances Naude Stennett, and I am a lifelong Laguna resident. Firstly, apologies for the millennial part of me that will be reading off of my phone here. And secondly, I am here today on behalf of Laguna Beach's children, my own included. I have a 15-month-old daughter, and as well as the animals, particularly the dogs that live in Laguna Beach, both particularly in South Laguna Beach, but of course this affects everyone as well. Today, I am here to speak on the issues of the overuse at the Village Green Park in South Laguna Beach. I'm imploring the city to please find the budget to buy the lots that are for sale diagonally across from the Village Green Park. I know that we had looked at that a while back when we were considering where to relocate the fire station. Unfortunately, now when they were going for what I believe, don't fact check, I mean, please fact check me on this. I think they were going for 1.7. Now it's to my knowledge that they're going for 4.4. So unfortunately, that is a huge, huge gap there. And we missed that opportunity then, and I hope we don't miss it now. The community desperately needs a safe, secure, and clean place for kids and dogs to play, but separately. Currently, the entire neighborhood shares this one small park, and while we all work together really well for the most part, there are considerable issues at hand. I've lived in this neighborhood my entire life, and when I was growing up and playing in this park as a kid, we never had to worry about stepping in dog feces or any other waste when we were playing. However, now with my own daughter, even though I am walking distance from that neighborhood, I do not take her to the Village Green Park to play because it is not safe for her for unleashed dogs, but also for truly just sanitary reasons. I appreciate that there are conversations in the city going on to improve this park already so we can all enjoy our time here in a safe way. However, I believe that the long-term solution is to separate the kids and the dogs between two parks, keeping Village Green for the kids and turning the lots diagonally across into a dog park and public use, whatever we are able to do in that space. This is the only way to ensure that the dogs off leash are legal and do not have unsafe contact with the children, and that they don't leave their droppings where the children play. This also provides a safe space, again, for them to run off leash legally, which we don't have anywhere except for the dog park in the canyon. And especially in summer, that can take 45 minutes to get from South Laguna to the dog park, which no one is, that I know of, is going to drive their dog that far. I understand that the city says there's not budget, but we are hoping that we can come up with a creative solution so we don't miss out on this opportunity. It really is one of the last opportunities that we have in South Laguna. There aren't many other lots available. The only one that I'm aware of is on 5th Street. However, I feel like this should be reserved should it ever come up for sale for the fire department that is going to be there in case they need parking for another rig or an engine or anything like that. Also, I have 2 seconds, but there is an opportunity here to potentially add trash cans and a public restroom that locks because there is too much trash in our neighborhood. And in addition to the dog feces that we have to deal with, we also have to deal with that with humans who come up from the beach, which is disgusting. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Francis.
Thank you.
Hello, Council. My name is Larry Black, representing a commercial property here in downtown. I'm also here about the trash services and the prices and their massive increases. In July of 2023, with Waste Management, I had 3 days a week service and I was charged $105 a month. July of 2024, with CR&R, I have 1 day a week service and I'm paying $313 a month. So something is not right. This company is not being regulated like it should be, and it just seems very fishy to me. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Council. Laura Paresi, City Treasurer. I'm going to be really brief. I'm a little more than halfway through the TOT reviews, the 2-year reviews that I had said I was going to do. And I had the pleasure today of meeting with the new finance director, who is also a CPA. Very good meeting. I am really looking forward to her. And I wanted to thank staff for bringing the wonderful qualifications that Erica has on board with the city. Thank you.
Mayor Kemp, Pro Temp Runagi, council members. I am Kathleen Prior, president of the Laguna Heights Community Association. I am the executive director of a startup nonprofit organized to keep battery storage facilities away from our residential neighborhoods. I am here to alert you to a threat to your community. A huge lithium battery storage facility requiring 13 acres of concrete supporting 1,100 galvanized steel containers, each 30 feet long, in a recreational area was recently denied a permit by the city of San Juan Capistrano. The location of this facility is in a small valley, 5 miles north of Doheny Harbor, full of public trails and has a stream that drains to the ocean. The energy company, ENGIE, a French company, through their American subsidiary, Compass, responded to the denial by informing the city of San Juan they would apply directly to the state for approval, which they have done. Lithium generates toxic, flammable, explosive waste. Our HOA board met with a representative from ENGIE and one from Power Flow Development. The batteries are described as lithium iron phosphate or similar technology batteries. In the request for the permit filed with the California Energy Commission, similar batteries would include lithium-ion batteries, which have self-ignited in several battery facilities recently. If the temperature inside the container gets too warm, the batteries will erupt in flames. Lithium flames are not extinguished by water. The fire suppression plan cited 2 water hydrants as fire suppression. Fire hydrants use drinking water. Toxic waste is a problem. 20% of the lithium, according to these experts, cannot be recharged after just 8 to 10 years and would become waste. Lithium cannot be recycled. 220 30-foot containers of lithium waste. We are concerned about the cost and availability of fire insurance for our residents who live within a half a mile of this proposed facility and the effect on property values. The cities of San Juan Capistrano and Laguna Niguel have added information to their websites to alert people to the location and the danger of lithium battery storage facilities. Okay, I would just like you to join us and to know that you are also vulnerable. Anybody coming in here to direct that battery facility can go directly to the state over your objections.
No,
Thank you.
Kathleen, is this a facility that's storing used lithium batteries? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, no, what I'm saying, the plan is to take new lithium batteries and put them in these big containers. They would attach to the grid, download the
I see.
electricity from solar panels and the excess at noontime, and then after 4 o'clock, feed it back into the grid. They're just rechargeable like your yard lights. Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. I brought my prop. Good evening, council members, and thank you for your time. I'm Frankie Danziger, a member, a resident of South Laguna, and I'm here to also support Francis in the request for the lot adjacent from the Village Green. I'm here to ask for your support in purchasing the small lot to expand our park. Creating separate spaces for dogs and children to play safely. As it stands, we face the challenge of mixing kids with dogs, which can lead to potential dangers from accidental knocks to potential exposure to dog waste. As a dog owner, my dog Babs wished she could be here as well, but she would love to also have a park in South Laguna. As Francis mentioned, it takes a while to get up to the canyon from South Laguna, and it would be a great relief to me and my wife if we could both split time between the dog park and the actual play park. By giving our dogs their own designated space, we not only protect our children, but also offer dog owners the room they need to let their pets run freely without worry. We're hoping that you all will take this into consideration. As a South Laguna resident, it's something that's really important to us. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Cute prop.
Mayor Kemp, my name is Gene Felder. I live at 2680 Park Avenue. I sent in a video from YouTube. This is a video of the city manager traffic stop. If we could just play it for a little while, I have a request for information about it.
The City of Laguna Beach is releasing video from the body-worn camera relating to a traffic stop of City of Laguna Beach City Manager Sher Dupuis by Police Officer Matt Gregg on November 16, 2022. The city's intention in releasing this video is to provide transparency to the public and to serve as a public service announcement reminding drivers not to have their phones in hand while driving. Ms. Dupuis was the subject of a traffic stop for using her cell phone in speaker mode while driving on Coast Highway on November 16, 2022. The city does not automatically release police body-worn camera video. However, on this occasion, at the direction of the City Council, the video is being released in response to a recent public records request. Certain items are obscured in the video, such as a blurred license plate, blurred driver's license and vehicle registration, and blurred citation, as these items are permitted by the Public Records Act to be exempt from public disclosure. Here are some points that provide context for the events depicted in the video. Soon after being pulled over, Officer Gregg asked Ms. Dupuy if she was using her cell phone while driving. Ms. Dupuy admits that she was using her cell phone and states that she was talking to Jeff Calvert. Calvert is the chief of police. The officer returns to his police motorcycle and calls Chief Calvert.
I think that's enough if you'd stop.
The video shows Officer Gregg talking.
I have requested information about this. I've lived in Laguna Beach for 38 years, and this is basically the weirdest thing that I've seen in 38 years of being here. I bring it up today. This was released April 6th of last year, 2023. I have no idea what it cost. What did it cost to produce this video press release? Why did the city not just send out a written press release and let the body cam speak for itself and not provide context? I suspect the idea was to exonerate the city manager. And but you know, in here, by bringing up her officers, Gregg's boss's boss, it is a hostile work environment. I would think a jury of Officer Gregg's peers would find that in the legal dictionary, an employee to feel uncomfortable, scared, or intimidated in their place of employment. So the video admits that the city manager was guilty of the moving violation, but it also shows clearly that she was guilty of a hostile work environment. I appreciate the answers to my questions. Who approved this thing? Who wrote it? Who approved it? What did it cost? How much staff time did it take? How much more time do I have? Oh my God, sorry.
Hello, good evening. My name is Sher Morgan. I'm actually a school board candidate, so I'm looking forward to the next month. I hear it's gonna be lots of fun. So I'm a 34-year resident of Laguna Beach and a homeowner for almost 30 years. We've been landlords and we've actually been renters. And I wanted to comment on an article that showed up in Stu News today about the Tenant Protection Act and some addendums that were made to it and some comments. Mayor Kemp, you made a comment that your goal is to uphold the rights of tenants while ensuring that property owners adhere to clear and consistent standards, and that this ordinance that was made in March reflects the commitment to creating a balanced act and a just community for all Laguna Beach residents. I love that. And Member Whalen, you made a comment about requiring timely submission of eviction notices, providing tenants with access to critical information. We're fostering a more equitable and accountable housing environment in Laguna Beach. Our community deserves to be informed and supported, and this ordinance is a crucial step in that direction, which I also agree. And as you know, one of the efforts I always try and do is to bring that equitable voice for all, because I think as a small community, we really need to work together. So I would like to challenge you to add another layer of protection for our renters, because we have one data point that we have is that 32% of our population rent. And that's a significant amount of people, because you know that of that 32%, they're all actually here. Whereas the 67% that own, a lot of those homes are second homes. So I would like to encourage from a code enforcement situation. Sometimes when renters are in a situation where things in the house aren't working, or they're really having an issue with their owner, sometimes an owner might be a very difficult owner and might not want to make the repairs necessary. And what is interesting is that owners have the same bandwidth, whether they live in the property or not. And as owners, we might be more susceptible to to tolerating living conditions that as a tenant that's renting probably shouldn't have to, and they don't, because they're protected. So, but what our code says is that an owner has the same amount of time for repair. So if I call as a renter and file a complaint for code enforcement, they have the same amount of time as if an owner living in the property has to fix it that a neighbor complains. So if we're trying to protect renters' rights and give them the same kind of empowerment that we give our owners, we might want to look at the time frame that we allow an owner to make the repairs if a renter is complaining, and maybe assuming that the renter has tried to negotiate with the owner, tried all other kind of means. If they can prove that, then maybe the city could probably try and expedite those repair orders so that the renter has a little bit more opportunity, if you will. Thank you. And I do like this forum. Thank you so much. I think.
Sherry, I just, when you say the owner should have the opportunity to fix the property based on a complaint by the renter faster than the owner would be, I mean, I don't quite get.
And maybe I'm not explaining it well. So like if code enforcement is called by a neighbor, for example, an offense is falling over, or there's, debris or litter or feces or whatever, the code enforcement will come out and file a complaint, and the owner has like 30 days to repair it, or 15 days. I didn't look at the specific number of days, but they have a certain amount of time to fix it. If they don't fix it, then the code enforcement comes back out, and if they haven't fixed it, they'll write them another notice or fine them, or say, if you don't fix it in this many days, you're going to be fined. Okay. Whereas if it's a renter, they have to endure that timeline for the owner to make those changes. So as an owner, if an owner is occupying the property, I mean, we tolerate a lot more than we would maybe as a renter who's paying their owner's mortgage, for example. So as a renter, I would think to protect the renter's rights, perhaps the city could look at a shorter window of time to make repairs, a shorter timeline in the code enforcement, so that if a renter has gone to all other options and now they have to call code enforcement to get something done, perhaps the city could step in and make a shorter timeline, because otherwise, why is the tenant calling code enforcement to begin with?
Okay.
And that would help further protect the renter's rights and give them some power in the process.
Thank you.
So thank you very much. Have a nice evening.
Thanks, Sherry.
Everybody, welcome back. Good to see you all. Happy election season. I'm sure it's rip roaring fun out there. I wanted to take a moment to say that not only can millennials use these things, but I can too. And I'm certainly not a millennial. I also want to take a moment to say that when it comes to swimming pools in Laguna, that Sensible Laguna wholeheartedly agrees a new pool and upgraded aquatics facility is definitely needed. Discussion at this point is really only around the size of the pool, features, usage, cost to taxpayers, and whether the city and the district JUA is going to continue forward and how that might look. I bring this up tonight because it's election season, as I said, and I've been attending multiple candidate forums. On the school board side, there are definitely some things that you may not know. President Vickers, for example, is running for re-election this year, and she continues to speak for you and the city at these events on this subject. While clearly not her role, Vickers said the city is still negotiating, but has no real community demand for a pool. I know a bunch of lap swimmers, kids, parents, and aqua aerobics athletes who would disagree. Vickers says the city is going to have to lease lanes and water from the school district, and the kiddie pool is hardly ever used, so it really isn't part of their design at all. And finally, Vickers says the district has talked to other people, whatever that means. And since the district will be the only ones with water, Beeler is going to move over to them. Keep in mind that Beeler is the private group that runs nearly all of the city aquatics programs under a revenue sharing agreement. This is important because if it's true, it means the city will lose $700,000 in revenue or something like that. If true, it also probably means this private group revenue sharing would move over to the ever shrinking smallest public school district in Orange County and nearly all of California for that matter. During this election cycle, it's clear the school board is under pressure for bad decisions they've made, and Vickers led the charge as president. Residents know it is crucial that school board members be willing to work with you and not try to undermine your position, as has been the case here, unfortunately. Our town is simply too small for this to work any other way. Good luck as you continue discussions with the school district on the pool situation. And please know that a very large group of residents supports your efforts, plans to vote for change at the district, and all hope will bring more balance to the relationship after the elections. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Good evening.
My name's Candy Harris. I am a resident of South Laguna Beach. I think I've lived here now for almost 30 years, so it's been a minute. I'm here to support Frances as well as all the other moms that were here earlier, many that had to head home to their kids, but again, supporting, looking at that lot adjacent from Village Green Park. I raised my two daughters here. I know the same problems they're dealing with now in terms of wanting to keep your kids safe and having a place to play. I'm also a dog owner and know the importance of what it is to build community around all those dog owners and a lot of people that also don't have dogs, but like to show up and be a part of the community during that time. So from Aliso Beach all the way south, it's not just South Laguna, the neighborhood that we live, which is by the fire station, but it's also all the way south. There's no other open space parks for people to gather. So I do think the community would be really open to creative ways to problem solve this as well. If it's additional fundraising, if there's membership opportunities or ways that people that would actually be utilizing this space could get creative in helping to problem solve and make it available to the community. So anything you could do would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Candy.
Hello, my name is Christof, and I want to thank the people that have come to testify about the addition to the Village Green Park and the providing of the lots to the diagonally from that park. I was involved with creating Village Green Park in 1977. It was a miracle then. Everybody thought it was so expensive. It cost $80,000 to buy the land at that created the Village Green. But everybody said, it'll be worth it in the long run. And I think we're in the same situation now, different economy, but it definitely will be worth it in the long run to acquire that property. And I really urge you to do that. I'm sending you now on a different topic, and that is the Egan House at on Valito, 31526 Valito Road. It's on the Design Review Board agenda for Thursday night. And somehow the city missed that this is a historic property. If you look at the back of the pictures, there's an email that was sent by Greg O'Laughlin 2 years ago from the Civic Association advising the city that this is a historic structure, that it was on the market. Civic Association contacted the realtor and talked to him about it and made sure that he knew that it was a historic building. It happens to be the last remaining homestead house in the city, as far as we know. So there were, I don't remember how many, 60, 70 homesteads filed in Laguna Beach. And that's the basis for the way our whole city was organized. This homestead was filed in 1910, and the house that those homesteaders lived in is still there. And it definitely needs to be acknowledged. And the city's staff report for Design Review Board doesn't even say anything about it, even though we asked for that information to be put in the file 2 years ago. So I would like it if you, or recommend that you instruct staff to pull that off the Design Review Board agenda so that a legitimate historic report can be done so that we can explore the options for preserving that structure. Thank you.
So, Ann, you're saying this was a mistake that was made when the historic resources inventory was created? Is that why this is not on the register, or?
Yes, it's down a driveway, not visible from Valito. And it was overlooked.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And when we started the book, for the History of South Laguna book back in 2002, we started to go into all these homesteads, what happened to them, interviewed the families. These photographs that are here are from the Egan family archives. And this is how we learned about our history in a much more detailed way than was available at the time the inventory was done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, when we're done with public comment, I'll have David Contreras come up and talk about that briefly, if that's helpful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening, City Council. Greg Viviani here, third generation Laguna Beach local, born and raised. I have a few items I would like to address. Once again, first off, I want to submit these selected pages of an in-depth technical report of the Aliso Creek sand berm. I have emailed this full report to you guys before. I can resend it anytime. There's some highlighted key paragraphs of a few pages I think will help you further understand the real situation of the Aliso Creek sand berm. There should not be a law around this issue of breaching the berm. I feel this recent technical report overviews that very well. Instead, I hope a compromise will be implemented with our local politics and community, which can utilize the enforcement and education by the Laguna Beach lifeguards on staff during crowded beach times that will prevent anyone from breaching the sand berm when the beach is crowded, keeping this matter a local matter since local residents are the ones affected by this mainly. This is something the county did for decades and something I can stand behind. I have given indisputable proof, facts, and video evidence of the real situation of this area over and over and over. And these artificial berm breaches simply, I quote, speed up the inevitable, end quote, and alleviate and prevent many other serious issues from happening, including property damage. I've submitted many videos to you all that support my efforts. Also, my ongoing petition just hit over 8,000 signatures for no more useless laws at Aliso Beach, no estuary restoration project. This added pooling water will cause many problems and compound the already documented concerns and stagnant water with mosquitoes. Sorry, next slide. If you could, hold on a second. There should never be added extra parking spaces to the Aliso Beach parking lot in our town. This is it. Instead, make the already available spaces on PCH metered. As for the handicap spaces to the southwest corner of the parking lot, those should be moved towards the east-west corner and connected to the amenities towards the back because the front side of the parking lot does get washed out. I kind of segued from the berm issue into the sand erosion, which I'm showing you. This was taken 2 years ago, the photo that you're looking at now. Instead of spending hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars on redesigning the parking lot, which has worked well for decades, maybe slurring and repaving and restriping the already parking lot that we have would be better. Increasing the amount of parking spaces is going to compound the amount of tourists, compound the amount of trash. Lastly, can you please take off the free spaces off the Visit Laguna website, maps detailed information of our delicate areas that are being destroyed right in front of our eyes. And I'm willing to be on any committee, board of directors to help be a voice of our local residents and to be heard. Thank you for your efforts. I appreciate all of your hard work and thank you guys for the beach cleanup you guys were at. That was awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
Hi, air quotes. We don't do enough for the kids. Those are the words of Mayor Sue Kemp at the August 13th City Council meeting where the topic was Riddle Field. The mayor's comments followed Mayor Pro Tem Alex Vernaghi saying, air quotes, I think that as leaders of our city, our first obligation is to the children. Yet there has been no serious effort by the city to acquire a property in South Laguna for a children's park, despite months of efforts by young families, grandmas, and dog owners who have been requesting that the city acquire 2 undeveloped lots directly across the Village Green Park in South Laguna. Village Green Park is only 1/2 acre compared to other city parks like 8 acre, Molten Meadows, or 7 acre Alta Laguna Park, yet its use has intensified over the years as the popularity of South Laguna has grown as a destination for growing families, with the rise in dog ownership and high interest in South Laguna's beaches. Walking the streets, it looks like South Laguna is experiencing a baby boom. Many South Laguna families live in small houses on small lots. Those growing children will need safe places to play, but the only public park for the thousands of Laguna Beach residents living south of Aliso Creek is the small Village Green Park where moms, kids, dogs mix and mingle. The park is shared by moms with small children and by dog owners exercising their friendly but sometimes rambunctious canines. With the purchase of these 2 undeveloped lots, the uses could be separated so that one park could allow dogs while the second park could prohibit dogs. Neighbors have tried to move this forward. They have gathered signatures, submitted petitions, spoken at city council meetings, sent emails, and talked face-to-face to council members. Before the last election, candidates at the last forum said they would support acquisition of the lots. We thought we were getting close when at last year's budget hearing, all 5 council members supported the idea of trying to negotiate a lease for use of this site. But the city manager's efforts to do so was not successful. Previous city manager. But now, when the vacant lots are on the market, there is still no action by the city. This is a generational opportunity. There is very little undeveloped property in Laguna that could be turned into well-located park spaces. Once this is gone, it's gone. So if the city council really means that our first obligation is to children and that we don't do enough for the kids, if they really mean that, here's an opportunity to do something for the kids. Thanks.
Good evening, Council. George Dubin with you. I know we're in an election season here at home, and it's great. It's all kinds of fun and stuff. But I want to talk to you about yard signs. We live in, we profess to be a very environmentally friendly town, and something, you know, we outlaw all kinds of plastic products, bags, balloons, straws. And I'm just curious. I don't have any stats on the statistics of, you know, the effectiveness of yard signs. I think most people, we live in a small community, so most people know the candidates and they probably already have a pretty good idea of who they're going to vote for. But I just think that perhaps in future local elections, we may consider outlawing yard signs, because what happens to them when it's all done? They go into a landfill. You know, maybe some of them get recycled, but you know, I suspect that a lot of them, not just in our community, but all over the nation, end up in landfills. And I just think since we pride ourselves on being environmentally sensitive, maybe in future election cycles we consider not using yard signs. I just don't think they're that effective, and I think they end up not getting recycled. So that's all. Thank you.
Thanks, George.
Good evening, Mayor Kemp and council members. Hi, Dave. We're old friends. I just want to say thank you. I'll be very short. Thank you for the grant you gave Laguna Dance Festival this year. It was both of them. I don't know who has a hand in what, but they were generous, and we are entering our 20th anniversary. I've left a brochure for you. There's something going on Thursday if you'd like to come. And for 20 years, we've been bringing world-class dance to the city, and we couldn't do it without you. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Joy. You waited a long time for that.
Good evening, Mayor Kemp and the council members. My name is Abbas Koshniari. I'm a resident of Aliso Beach for the past 22 years. I'm in support of regular breaching of the berm by the public works for surfers when it's safe, allowing a straight flow into the ocean. The fresh water that was referred to earlier behind the berm in Aliso Creek is nothing but polluted runoff from thousands of homes upstream. After 2 days of this water staying stagnant, it creates a strong odor and attracting mosquitoes, and becomes very unsafe for children that constantly swim in that water. Until an environmentally friendly solution is reached, breaching the berm is a very effective method that reduces many of the associated problems related to Aliso Creek. Thank you.
Thank you.
Am I the last one? Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Julie Beretta with CRNR. And I'm just here to provide an update on some statistics and where we are with the transition of new services to Laguna Beach. Few stats to share. From May through August, we've received a little over 8,000 phone calls with an average hold time of 90 seconds. One of the biggest things I'm happy to share this evening is the citywide residential card exchange will be completed 2 weeks earlier than scheduled. And with that, I know that the city and city council have been getting some phone calls regarding wrong cart sizes. As we've shared, we received inaccurate data from the previous hauler. With that, we took over 1,300 phone calls from residents, or 1,300 residents called and said the carts that we exchanged did not match what they had in front of their homes. So with us completing the project early, I'm happy to report to the city and to city council that that backlog of card exchanges that we have will be completed within the second week of October. So since we finished early, we're going to take those 2 weeks and get all those containers exchanged earlier. At one point, we were looking at, because the volume of all the cart requests for the different sizes, that it was probably going to take us through December. So we added extra crews, and again, completing early, those exchanges will happen sooner. Also, we did mail out our first residential invoice. Again, this is new to the City of Laguna Beach residents where they were previously billed on their property taxes. So our first invoice went out in August. The second invoice will come out in November. And in that invoice, they'll also receive a newsletter with some program information and upcoming events. One thing I'd also like to point out was, due to those inaccuracies that I mentioned in the data, I'll give an example. Many customers were showing in the system that they had a 90-gallon trash cart. The rates in the new contract are driven by the size of the trash container. So as we got all these requests to exchange their carts for the smaller ones that they actually had at their property, we automatically also adjusted their rates to the lower rate for the smaller cart sizes back to July 1st. So we made sure that we adjusted those backwards. In addition, I would like to share that our sustainability team has been actively meeting with commercial and multifamily customers throughout the city to what we call right size, make sure the containers they have match their service needs, and then also offer a reduced cost when applicable. Nick and Alexandra, which I think a lot of people have met and seen, they are in Laguna Beach daily and are happy to meet with any customers that would like to discuss their trash, recycling, and organics collection, and meet them at their properties, whether it's a residential or a commercial customer. Lastly, I think it was mentioned, I would like to share that we did participate in the International Beach Cleanup at Main Beach this weekend. We had a booth, we brought our mini truck. But I think the part that we liked best was, and this was at the request from the Laguna Ocean Foundation and the Chamber of Commerce, is that we worked with all the volunteers. So when they collected the litter off the beach and it was dumped on the tarps, we worked with them to educate them and pull out all the recycling. So for the first time, we had recycling containers at this cleanup. So all the plastic that was collected on the beach, aluminum cans, any organics such as banana peels, apple cores, all of that was separated, and we were able to recycle that material. So we look forward to assisting and participating in future events throughout the city. And that's my
Julie, I have a
update.
couple questions
Yes.
for you. So we've obviously been getting, the council's been getting calls about a number of things. So I know you get the cart exchange is going to be done in a couple of weeks, right? That's good. And that was one of the major things. A lot of people who are complaining are because they have multiple units and their fees have gone up. So, and I got your card during the coastal cleanup and I gave it to one resident who wrote to us. But what's the best way to get Nick and I forget the other person's name, organized,
Alexandra.
to meet with all the residents? Because we'd really like to get these things buttoned up and we have continued complaints.
So email or phone number that is on their business cards. You could also contact Liz Avila, city staff, that she could get you in contact with them. But they are 100% dedicated to Laguna Beach. They don't serve any other city except for Laguna Beach. So like I said, they are out here daily and they can come meet with customers, go over the rate structure. It is different than what was had in the past, new to the new state regulations and all the things that residents and businesses have to be compliant with new state laws. But we're happy to come out and meet with them.
And then what about the billing? So we've had a lot of questions about the billing. So we got a bill in August, right?
Yes.
And then we go on the quarterly after that?
It's quarterly, yeah. So you had your first bill had a back bill for July for that one time.
Yep.
But moving forward, it's for every 3 months you receive a quarterly bill and the next one comes out in November.
I have the number of, I mean, we did a lot of communication about
Yes.
the billing and stuff,
Yes.
but you can't reach everybody, you try your best. But are you still getting calls about the billing?
Not too much. The call volumes have gone down quite a bit. I would say the majority of the phone calls that we have received are on the trash cart exchanges. The container sizes were incorrect and just questions about bulky pickup and other services. So we're not getting any service complaints at all. It's just mainly cart exchanges and bulky pickup.
Okay.
That's
And
the volume.
multifamily.
And some multifamily
We're getting
calls.
multifamily
Yes.
emails about
Yes.
that. Okay.
Yeah, so I have a question too. I realize the position you're in is difficult but this was a 2-year process and I appreciate Mark McAvoy's report that he sent to us on the progress we've made. This is a 2-year process we went through, 2 years to get to choose CR&R. And I think we hope for better results based on what the community has come back with, in Mark's report, 8,000 calls. 8,000 calls. So that seems like a lot to me. And I am sure it seems like a lot to you. One of the things that happened when first day they picked up my trash is the hydraulic hose failed and sprayed it all over my the street and also on my garbage can. And that happened again at the Publix at our library. So there's been numerous instances of things gone wrong, which we wouldn't expect. Larry Black's comment about the prices going up for those being picked up, particularly those who are infrequent pickups on, once a week or that for smaller buildings. John Campbell has also complained about that. I knew they would go up a bit for the smaller for businesses and would go lower for residents, which is what this was sold in. I don't know that that's happened. And I hope we're at the tail end of these problems, but because I didn't know trash would be such a difficult thing to make a transition for. But we appreciate you coming to address this and hope we can solve all these things in the near
Definitely.
future.
And I will stay off there and talk with Ms.
But
Martin.
again, the bin part was really difficult. I got the wrong bins. I had a small trash bin and now I got a really big one and they can't come out until November to change that. So there was something in the process of checking the inventories between you and CR&R that either went wrong, causing a lot of these problems, but that should have been taken care of prior to you taking over, which was a year-long transition. But thank you for coming.
No problem. Thank you.
This is kind of a question for Julie and for the city manager. It seems like, because I'm dealing with all these phone calls too, and I feel like I'm not able to help people get get the right answers. Could there be office hours or something where we have representatives from the city, from CR&R, and where residents can make appointments? And I understand that there's an ability to make appointments now, but people are having to call multiple times. Could we do something like that would allow everyone to be in the room as we work through these different?
I think we could take a look at that. That's a
Okay.
good idea.
And then the second part is when we met after the vote, you indicated that because there was a concern that the fee, what Waste Management was saying was that CR&R would charge fees. And you indicated that would not happen. Is that still the case?
No, there's been no fees.
No fees have been assessed. Okay, good. Yeah. And then from what Ms. Martin was saying about the multifamily, and I've heard this from other multifamily property owners, does that sound right to you? Like, is there a mistake that happened with that particular case, or do those rate increases, do they sound right based on your understanding? That's what I'm trying to understand.
What's difficult for me is I don't know the previous contract or what the rate structure was. All I know is based on the RFP that went out,
Okay.
and we were provided a rate sheet and you bid on the rates and the services accordingly. It's hard for me to compare also because of the new state mandates.
Got
I
it.
don't know if every business was compliant, that when the state comes out and meets with all jurisdictions throughout California and they want to see what services everyone has, that the city can say, yes, we're 100% compliant, and move on to another city because Laguna Beach is doing a good job. It's hard for me to know without sitting down with them specifically to say that they were billed wrong. I could tell you that they were billed based on the service information that we got with the new rate structure and the contractual requirements. But to go back, like I said, we could look at people, what we refer to as right sizing, perhaps we provide different service levels, different options to try to lower or mitigate the costs. But I can only share, I know
course.
what we bid on.
So maybe that's the solution, is to right size some of these multifamily properties.
Definitely.
Because I really do think that's a huge problem, because our renters in town are already facing high costs for everything, including rent. And so to have like a 200% increase at and many of our property owners are small mom and pop owners, so they're going to pass that on just like anyone would. So it's a huge concern. So I'm hoping that if it's a structural rate issue, that we can work together and figure that out, because it's just not acceptable going forward. So I appreciate the willingness to collaborate on this, because I think it's important.
I wanted to add a comment on that. Lewis Weil called me and he sent an email to me, and I think the council as well. He owns a duplex and they had 3 bins there and they shared them, and now they have 6. and he just doesn't have room for 6. So, you know, our city is small. People are required to hide their bins, and in some cases they can't. And so that's a real concern for him, and the increase in cost and the convenience. They just didn't need 6 bins. So, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Cody Engel. I don't want to challenge their credibility, but as of Friday, I was told that I could get my container replaced on October 28th, not in 2 weeks. But I contacted the city and I'm getting the container next Monday. So the problem continues also in calling. You go through 3 different people to get to the Laguna Beach person, which is probably not very efficient. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Cody. Okay, I'll close the public hearing. Council, okay, we're going to go to city manager first for comments.
Sure. And I don't know if either I can state something for David Contreras or David can come up. This is about 31526 Bolito that and Christof mentioned. I think we're recommending a 2-month continuance on that property from DRB, which would allow us to do a historic assessment. So I think that's very much resolvable. Go ahead, Bob.
No, if you're good, I had a follow-up when you're done.
I wanted to state too, and this is part of my announcements, and I'll go back to Bob. A week from tonight on Tuesday, October 1st, in the chambers here between 4 and 6, we'll be holding a workshop on community development activities, including historic properties. It's not the focus of that hearing, sorry, not a hearing, workshop. The focus is on updating you on the backlog issues that I've emailed about in the past and making sure that we're making progress on that. But an aspect of it is our historical properties. So that'll be a topic of the public workshop. Invite one and all to attend again a week from tonight, Tuesday, October 1st, between 4 and 6 here in this room. And anyone's welcome to attend. So we're gonna have some more once Bob's done.
No, you addressed it. Mine was just a follow-up because I had a conversation with you, you know, maybe a week ago about how we develop a process to analyze the historical aspects of, you know, properties that are coming through the process. So we don't have this kind of situation. And so it sounds like you're going to address some of that at the workshop. So that's good.
Yeah, thank you. Megan and Jane have been a big help in looking at that, and as well as the community development team. So we do have a proposal we'll talk about, and then I'll surely relay it to the council immediately afterwards.
Okay, thank
Keep
you.
going on a few more.
Yep.
I did start to do for the public's awareness a council agenda item summary this past week. I want to link it to the community newsletter each week before a council meeting. So that'll be out the Thursday before the council meeting. I think it was in Stu News today, but please let me know what you think about that and the usefulness of it. It's kind of just a brief summary of the agenda items, so you don't feel like you've missed anything. I used to do this in previous roles, and I think people got a lot out of it. I mentioned the community development workshop. I'd like to thank everybody that participated in the fire department strategic plan effort. That is underway and moving quickly. But again, thank you for those that spent time in mid-September on that. I'd like to note that RAF TELUS has begun its work on the finance department's organizational assessment. I really appreciate the city staff's participation in that, as well as the city treasurers and the participation of 2 members of the audit committee who either have been interviewed or will be interviewed. And that leads me to talking to you about, I'd like to introduce you all to Erica Castillo, our new finance director. Erica comes to us from the Santa Margarita Water District and has experience working for auditing firms as they audit cities. She is a CPA as well and has really jumped into her assignment. She's figuring out things faster than I am, which is terrific. It's not a big, it's not hard to beat me at things. So, but I really appreciate Erica's diligence and some of these things that she's working on. So I'm glad that she's here. Erica, if you could come up and just say hello and briefly introduce yourself.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I appreciate your time. Thank you, Dave. I'm very happy to be here and I look forward to working with all of you. As Dave mentioned, I am a CPA. I do come from a public accounting background, spending the first half of my career auditing counties, cities, special districts, County of Orange and other neighboring Orange County cities. Second half, as Dave mentioned, spent at Santa Margarita Water District as a controller and then chief financial officer and treasurer. I'm very happy to be here and I very much look forward to continue to working with all the staff, our city treasurer, and of course, you all. So thank you again, and I'm happy to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome aboard. Good to have you.
That concludes my comments. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. George?
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a few comments. I attended the beach cleanup, both of them, on Saturday, and I want to thank Diane Dixon and 3R for putting that on at Aliso Beach and the city for their part in the main beach. We didn't pick up much at Aliso because Greg Viviani's was there at 6 a.m. probably picking everything up. So it wasn't much to pick up. What we did pick up was many chunks of burnt firewood. People are still burning wood on the beach. We got rid of about 4 of those fire pits because they were causing some real problems in overflowing trash going into the ocean. So I'm glad we only have 3. Anyway, I thank all those who participated and sponsored the events, those 2. I already talked about my concerns about that transition from waste management to CR&R. A number of residents have also expressed their desire to have the city take a look at buying those 2 lots that were available on Monterey Street or down in South Laguna. And certainly South Laguna needs another park. I think I've had families writing to me about the problems there at the Village Green being used by dogs and the fear of those dogs, as well as the other things that owners don't necessarily clean up. So I would very much like to have our council review how we can purchase that property for South Laguna. I think it's necessary and I think appreciated by the residents. I also appreciate the city manager providing that new preview of the council agenda. I think it's very, very succinct, and that appreciation also extends to Sarah Hall's preview and her summaries of the city council meetings. I myself have been publishing a recap of the council meetings for 3 years, and I intend to continue to do that. Residents telling me it's useful, and I think an informed public in all these ways helps the city council make the right decisions, and it's good for all of us. So, thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Whalen?
Just 2 quick items. Like George, I was at the beach cleanup down at Aliso and at Main Beach, and Diane Dixon did say that our beaches were so clean there wasn't much much to take away, which is good news. But a number of residents who were down there noted, the summer was quite different in terms of trash on the beach, and I think Greg mentioned that too. And then on Saturday, I also attended the remembrance ceremony for John Cucci, who of course was a police officer who died in service 11 years ago. And that was always a poignant celebration. So I was glad to be a part of that.
I also was at the beach cleanup, and I joined Bob for the remembrance ceremony for our fallen officers, John Cucci and Gordon French. I had a good time speaking with students from the Boys and Girls Club and kind of learning about what's going on there and the amazing programs that they provide. We're celebrating the retirement of Hans LaRoche, who's the director there, and he was the athletic director when I played basketball there. So his ceremony is actually tonight, so we're missing that. But I want to recognize him for all that he's done for our community and all the kids' lives who he's impacted. I want to congratulate Billy and KX on their relaunch. I was listening today, and it's so cool that we have a local radio station. The Village Green Park comments, I agree with. There clearly is a problem at Village Green Park. I've seen it firsthand when I've taken my cousins there. We need to figure out the solution. We can't obviously talk about any closed session discussions or negotiations in public for obvious reasons, because we would never want to give away our negotiating position. But I'm certainly supportive of finding a way to address the issues where kids are not able to go to the park like I was when I was young. And so I think that's a big problem. And I also want to thank Anne for saving that park. I think the story about how that was going to be turned into a house, and then she was able to convince someone at the county to spend $80,000 is something that will have an impact forever. So thank you, Anne, once again for that. I had a really good time in August. I was a lifeguard for the day and swam out to Wave Watch, our new rescue boat that we have as a city, and it was really cool to see the impact that has in how we're able to respond to emergencies. And I'll give an example because it happened when we were out there. There was an incident at the Montage Beach where someone basically got paralyzed because they hit the floor of the ocean, and so they needed CPR, and so we were able to respond. I mean, I didn't respond; I was just sitting there, but we were able to respond and be first on the scene because we can go a lot faster when we're in the water compared to the traffic and congested. So I just think we our marine safety officers are just amazing. How they're willing to put their lives on the line to save others, and so it's a great public safety tool that we have. The mayor and I also are working with Supervisor Foley, OC Parks, the Sheriff's Department, and then the Dana Point Harbor partners who are overseeing the revitalization of Dana Point Harbor to get us a slip that's in a very strategically located position, so that will allow our boat to be closer to us. So that's something that we're working on, and we appreciate Supervisor Foley's leadership on that. And then finally, with the school district, I do think we need to figure out a way to collaborate, and whether that requires a joint meeting or whatever it takes. I think our residents deserve us to always be collaborating with each other. Government at its worst is when you have two different entities, both of whom work for the same group of people, doing different things and working in silos. So I don't know how we do that, but our goals are the same. We want to make Laguna Beach the best place for families and kids, and so there's no reason why we can't work with the school district, whether it's the pool or any other issue. So I'm hoping that we can figure out a way going forward. I agree with the commenters on that. So those are my comments. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Alex. Okay, I just have a few things. First, I want to congratulate Michael Litchie, who's our Director of Transit and Community Services. We're going to be putting out a press release, but in January, we applied for Project V grants from OCTA, and yesterday, OCTA approved those grants. We got the full amount that we requested, which was 7.2 million over the next 7 years. So 5.2 million of that will help fund the city's off-season trolleys. And when we have special events, when we need the trolleys, will help with that. And then we can get more frequent summer breeze trolley service from Irvine. And then the remaining 2 million is going to allow us to expand the Laguna Local On Demand program, which we had 63,000 boardings last year. So we can actually extend that now out to Laguna Canyon Road, far into Laguna Canyon Road in El Toro. It's going to be coming back to us for acceptance on October 22nd, but it's really good news, and really proud of Michael Litchie for this work, because it's, anytime to get the full amount on a grant is really extraordinary. Mark Orgill's not here today, but I wanted to report that he and I have been meeting with the hotels. We met with the Ranch, Montage, Surf and Sand, and Casa Loma, which is the old Inn at Laguna, which is on the north end of Main Beach. And we're talking to them about our proposed stewardship model, which is environment, culture, and heritage. We've had excellent discussions. The hotels are very enthusiastic, so I expect to have a pretty good program put together in the coming months, but we're making really good progress. I'm really pleased with that. And then regarding visitor impacts, Bob and I are on a parking master plan subcommittee. We had a virtual drive-through town, Bob, Dave Kiff, and Mike Litchie and I. And we look for places to add parking throughout the town, particularly in South Laguna, so that we can get some more paid parking opportunities. We'll be coming back to council at some point on that. In terms of the lots on South Laguna, I do have a couple ideas. Like we can't, as Alex mentioned, we can't talk about any kind of property acquisition. It's not a public discussion that we can have, but I do have a few ideas about that. The comments that, I don't know, one of the guys made about the pool, I don't know if it was Gary or Steve, I don't remember, but I don't know about those comments. I'll have to go back and look at the tape. So It's never ending back and forth on the pool. And then finally, I did attend also the beach cleanup, and for Aliso, I noticed that I didn't find much on the beach at all, but I did find that there was more trash along Coast Highway where the people have been working, to put the sidewalks in and people throwing stuff out of their car. That's where the preponderance of the trash was. Public Works is doing a really good job of taking care of that beach. It was quite clean. I wasn't really surprised because we haven't had that many visitors like we had in July, and then when we did the cleanup at Main Beach, it was also pretty clean, but on the north end, when you're below Heisler there in the rocks there's a fair amount of trash thrown over I don't know how it got there, but anyway, it's in awkward places, and there were some really young people cleaning up, and they were climbing in the rocks and getting it all out. That's pretty impressive. Okay, and with that, we'll go to our consent calendar, council. We have 19 items. Who would like to pull something?
16, 18, and 19.
Okay, 16, 18, 19, that's Bob. I'm going to pull item 6. Anything, Alex, for you?
No, Bob got it.
George, anything?
Nope, thank you.
Okay, anybody from the public want to pull any item on the consent calendar? Okay, no? Okay, item 6, Mary, are you here on the wildlife corridor?
On a motion, we have to approve the.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can
Oh.
I have okay, hang on. Can I have a balance?
I'll move items 1 through 5, 7 through 16 or through 15.
15.
And that's it.
And 17.
And 17.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, Mary, you want to come up? So this item is item number 6 on consent, and it is supporting the Irvine Laguna Wildlife Corridor. Mary, you want to tell us about that?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Mayor Kemp, City Council members and staff. I'm here in lieu of Norm Grossman, who is right now talking to Sea and Sage Audubon about signing on to the partner charter. So we've split and we're trying to do double duty here. I also want to tell you that the city of Laguna Woods signed on to this last week. And I think this council really understands because of this city, we really do have our contiguous 22,000 acres of wilderness park. But we have learned, and we should have probably known 40 years ago, but we're an island still. We really need to be connected to the Cleveland National Forest. And animals follow water, and there is a couple creeks that are part of the Orange County flood control that provide areas for animals to navigate along. And the 5 Points area through the Great Park, 5 Points has just done a marvelous job of really making a wildlife corridor that also serves for flood channel. In fact, every time we take a tour out there, and I hope sometime some of you can come and wander around with us. It's really quite interesting. But the section through 5 Points is so beautiful. I really worry that maybe animals will just stay there because it's so well done. But we have one obstacle, and with that's why we've done this partner charter. We need to go to the state, and there is funding there to do this type of thing and find our way over, under, and through the I-5. The camera study we did shows that the animals just don't like going under that huge, dark turn, no light at the end. They will not go through that. So we need to find that, and that's going to take some big funding. But thankfully, there is the funding there today, and we have the interest of Sacramento. So we're just trying to assemble a good list of people who believe in this concept, and if need be, would write a letter, but at least the name would be there. So that's it. I'm not going to go on. Any questions, please?
Mary, it's the cost of this corridor that you're
We
considering.
have no idea.
Okay.
No idea
All right.
yet. We really need to work with Caltrans and a number of other agencies to just figure out, is it an overpass?
like the one that's going on up at, you know, the Annenberg area. We don't know.
Mhm.
That's part of what we need to make sure we have this support for.
I've seen that area. Norm showed me that area where the animals just are
Yes.
very reluctant to go.
Yeah,
This-
I've waded through the scary tunnel many times.
Yeah, I want to go in there, actually. I
No,
want to
you
go in
don't.
there too.
Oh,
Yeah, I
dear.
know.
But this partner charter does not involve any money from the
Right.
city of Laguna Beach, but it's going to help just show the support that we have from agencies and nonprofits throughout California, really. It's recognized as a significant wildlife corridor. Because you have to remember, it's not just connecting to the Cleveland National Forest here in Orange County, that extends down into San Diego. So we're talking about connecting with a huge area that will provide the genetic diversity that we really need for bobcats and deer, smaller animals, birds even, you know, it just goes on what it'll do. More questions?
Yeah, just,
Yes.
it's interesting, Mary, given the connection, I was just thinking you were saying down to San Diego. I mean, and you mentioned state funding, but what about federal funding? Because
But
you know,
there's that too, yes.
there's Camp
Yeah.
Pendleton and
Yes.
all
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, there are all these things that are coming out now as part of climate control that are offer funding. So
Good.
we're just trying to make sure, this was like a document we sort of needed to go ahead. And we have an excellent consultant who's been working with Laguna Greenbelt for a couple years. And she's very well versed with Sacramento, and she's brought Sacramento teams down here. And we're doing tours quite a bit. So if you'd like, I'll make sure you hear about it when we do have one. It is interesting to see. Any other questions?
No, but it's a really interesting project.
It is.
I hope it.
I want to see it in my lifetime, so.
I don't
keep
blame you.
Pushing,
I think we all,
pushing.
yeah. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you so much.
I'll
Really
open the public hearing. Anybody want to speak on this item? Okay, council.
I move the
Okay, come on up. No, we got a
speaker, okay.
speaker here.
Hi, Councilor. I'm the owner in one of the Laguna Beach properties, and I received a phone call around 4 o'clock today. Like some staff wants me to be here, but I don't know. Like I was like I submitted an application for the ADU to build the ADU.
Well, this isn't-
Okay, this is
So-
not for that now.
Oh, I
No.
just want to. I just want to make sure. I just wait until I'm called. Or I'm not too sure about the process.
Yeah, I don't.
What I need to do.
I think you're next. That's 16, right?
Does it-
You're on item 16.
Yeah,
right?
just
Yeah,
have, we're going to get to that in
hold
a
tight.
second.
No problem. I will just wait.
Yeah, we'll
Just
get to
want
that
to
second.
confirm.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else want to speak? Okay.
Thanks
I'll
for
close
bringing
the
this
public
forward,
hearing.
Sue.
Yeah, this is good.
Okay,
I'll move the recommended action. Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, good, very good. Thank you, Mary. Thanks for hanging in. Okay, item 16, Bob, this is yours.
Yeah, I received a text midday today from Penny Milne that I forwarded on to the city manager and Dave Contreras and the city attorney to look at. And Penny Milne had raised a concern about the item 1, whether or not the de minimis waiver for the 21391 Stan's Lane was appropriate given its proximity to environmentally sensitive habitat and a water course and so on. So I forwarded it and asked staff to take a look at that and told Penny we'd pull it for discussion.
Okay,
Thanks, Mayor. Councilmember Whalen. Do you guys want to hop? Yeah, David Contreras is going to answer your questions.
Thank you. We did receive the correspondence. We've taken a look at it. Sher Morgan is project manager. In fact, he has 4 slides that he'd like to share with the council that we believe will address the comments that we received.
Hi, good evening, council members.
So on screen, you'll see an aerial of the site location and its vicinity. Located roughly in the center is the subject property at 21391 Stans Lane. Immediately north of the property, abutting the rear property line, is a parcel with the zone identified as water quality environmentally sensitive area. And towards the east, you'll see a significant drainage course. In both cases, well, in the case of the significant drainage course, the subject property is roughly 100 feet away from the center line and roughly 75 feet away from the 25-foot drainage course buffer. And towards the south of this aerial, you'll see a shade of light brown, which is identified as a high habitat area, and dark brown, which is a very high habitat area. And just zooming in further, you'll see the proposed ADU location towards the rear of the lot, attached to the detached garage, and the open space parcel immediately north of it. This is a visualization of the ADU's rear setback. So state requirements are minimum of 4 feet from property lines. So the area in green highlights rear setback of 4. The area in blue and this line right here represents the proposed rear setback, which is 9 feet 8 inches. And the area in pink represents a potential rear setback if it comes to that.
Now, with respect to the comments that we received, they were touching on various aspects of raising environmental sensitive habitat area concerns. And as the previous slide showed, and if you can go to the first slide there. So the property is identified in yellow at this location here, and just to the north is the open space area that's identified as an Environmental Quality Act, a water quality environmental site area. And so although it is adjacent to it, although it does abut up against that area specifically, the project was found not to have any impacts. The project site is below the grade of that area. And so the project will not be draining into the environmental habitat sensitive area. In fact, the property does drain towards the street on Stans Lane. So staff has evaluated the project, evaluated the information that's been provided to staff, and found that staff can still support the ADU and recommends that the council move forward with a de minimis waiver.
Okay, thank you. Questions?
So let's say hypothetically, the decision was made to require a coastal development permit. Under that scenario, what would happen here? Like, how would this have gone differently? What analysis would have been done that wasn't done here? Because it sounds like that analysis, the same analysis would be done.
That is correct. If it required a CDP, staff would have conducted a similar analysis in analyzing the project through the habitat understanding that we have. So it'd be a similar analysis overall.
Right. I mean, what would be materially different?
With respect to the process.
So you wouldn't have to come to city council.
Correct. It wouldn't have been brought to you under a de minimis waiver.
Got it.
That is correct.
No, but it would, I mean, just to follow up on that, generally, we don't hold public hearings for ADUs, but if we need a CDP, how's that? I mean, normally there would be a hearing associated with that. Is that other excluding a de minimis context?
Correct. So if so under our CDP ordinance, because there's development in the coastal zone, our options are a CDP or a determination that the development is exempt or otherwise excluded from the CDP requirements. Those are our options. That's the universe of our options. And so if in the de minimis waiver context, we're asking, like, staff finds that it's a de minimis, it's appropriate to use the de minimis waiver because there is no impact on coastal resources based on staff's evaluation. And so we don't need to go through a CDP process. If an ADU may potentially impact coastal resources, then we go through the CDP process, and it can go to the point of a public hearing before a decision-making body. It could be an admin DR or a public hearing. And it depends on the nature of the impacts. We give notice in that case to surrounding property owners, and they can request a hearing for the process. And this is only for, again, only for the CDP. The ADU itself is a ministerial approval. And so it's a limited scenario in which an ADU could have an effect on coastal resources that then therefore requires a CDP.
Which might have conditions attached to it.
Which could have conditions attached to it to mitigate the impacts on coastal resources.
Right.
So for tonight, the council's, the way that the code is written is that the de minimis waiver determination is actually reported to the city council. If the city council if a majority of the city council determines that the development is not de minimis, then we would go through the CDP process at that time.
Well, I think, first of all, I appreciate staff pulling this together very quickly. I think I got this text around noon or 1 o'clock. So thank you for all the good visual work here. But, you know, looking at the staff report under B1, it says, and it's going through the criteria for when we can go de minimis. It says the project, the staff report is saying, the project is not located adjacent to any public access ways, recreation, marine environment, or land resources, quote, environmentally sensitive habitat areas, so on and so forth. I mean, it seems pretty clear. I don't know how you'd be more adjacent to an environmentally sensitive habitat area than what was depicted. I mean, that may not change ultimately the outcome for CDP eligibility, but I mean, it's immediately adjacent to, so that's.
So I guess, can you go back to the because is that it's not ESHA what's adjacent to it. It's what is, you described it as what is it called?
It is a
drainage,
a water quality environmental sensitive area.
So is that's not ESHA?
It's a WQESA, which in essence is similar to an ESHA with respect to how the city's LCP identifies the environmental sensitive areas.
So our LCP, because okay, so our LCP treats WQESA as ESHA.
That is correct.
Okay, then okay.
Now, as staff identified, although it is located in the proximity of that area, based on the method and the way that it's been designed, as we've identified here, staff believes that there are no impacts to that ESHA area.
So then, legal question: are we able to, and now that we're here, essentially holding a public hearing on this, are we able to make the findings for the de minimis waiver, given what Bob just said, where the sentence is not accurate because the project is located adjacent to it, but are we able to make the determination that maybe it's adjacent to it, but there's not an impact? Are we able to do that, make that legal from a legal perspective today, Megan? Or is this sort of a procedural thing where we'd have to go, do the CDP route? Does that question make sense?
Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying. I think that the way that the language in the Coastal Act would suggest that that in the event that the development in areas adjacent to ESHA, or in this case ESA, shall be sited and designed to prevent impacts which would significantly degrade those areas and shall be compatible with continuous use of those habitat and recreation areas. And I think staff is making the determination that there is no change to design. And so I think it does satisfy the de minimis waiver requirements. But that being said,
No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What you said, thanks. That answers my question.
So the property isn't taking away any ESHA. it's on a lot that's already developed, right? It's just, it's close to the ESHA that's there.
It's below.
Pardon me?
It's also below,
Okay.
was what she said.
Well, I don't know, I'm confused by the fact that it's within the not appealable development, not located from the appeal area, but ESHA, yeah, it is, if it's adjacent to ESHA, it is appealable.
No.
Is that what we're saying?
I don't think so.
No, okay. All right, just trying to get it right
I
here.
don't know. Megan,
Well, could I ask, yeah, different question. If you didn't make the de minimis determination and then you mailed the notice, you do mailed notice, right, to
Correct.
property owners or surrounding area?
Correct.
Then what happens?
If there is no, and David, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but from my recollection from the code, if there is no response, we mail notice and we say, this is, this structure is going up and you're within the noticing area. If you have concerns about this, you can request a public hearing. If we don't get comments back, then it goes through the administrative design review approval process so that the community development director can approve the CDP. And if there is public comment received, then it goes through the DRB process. I think that's the answer based on my recollection of the code, but I'd have to pull it up to be 100% certain.
I think you mail notice for all ADUs.
Yes, we mail notice for all ADUs.
Okay,
But
Cody, you can't talk from the audience.
but as to requesting a hearing, that's the process. So if we get responses from neighbors, could request a hearing.
Is that right, David?
That is correct.
Okay. Okay, any other questions for staff or Megan? Okay, open the public hearing. Come on up, Cody. Here he is.
A surprise. This, of course, is exactly what we feared would happen with the adding the coastal development. We have some neighbors who don't like it, and so they've come up with a bunch of reasons why it shouldn't be there. And the science says it's not a problem. And of course, if we find it non-de minimis, we're talking about thousands of dollars for the public hearing, delay, et cetera, et cetera. They've already had to spend for the notification. So I would urge you guys to be very cautious about if somebody wants to build 28 feet and they're blocking views, go at it. But in this kind of situation where it's kind of wishy-washy, under the original, the way we were interpreting ADUs for the last 5 years, this wouldn't come up. And suddenly we have this CDP requirement. So I think the staff found there was no problem, reinforced here. You've got a neighbor who talks about how they're renting every room and all this stuff. That doesn't have anything to do with protecting your waterway. But I'm very fearful that that's what's going to happen. We're going to move the ADUs into neighbors squabbling again over and making up stuff. Thank you.
Thank you, Cody. Anybody else want to speak on this item? No, I'll close the public hearing. Did you want to speak? You come on up to the microphone. She's the owner. Yeah. Did you want to make some comments?
I'm the owner of this property. I immigrated to US over 20 years ago. I'm very proud of being a resident of not resident, but being an owner of a city of Laguna Beach. When the first time I come here, I'm so impressed, not only by the beautiful ocean view, but also by the diversified culture that it welcomes everyone from everywhere. So that's one of the major reasons that I purchased a property here. And I got a call 4 o'clock from the city that about this meeting. I rescheduled all my appointments to be here. It's because I really cares about, I think it's very important. And I want to hear from the neighbors because I personally meet all the neighbors nearby. I know we have a radiation to send postcards to probably 100 feet or like, I'm not too familiar with this, but because of the short notice, my architect is not able to make it here. Otherwise, he should be able to explain to you guys better what the whole idea and what the plan is. But like, personally, I meet the neighbors nearby and we have a very pleasant talk. And we also discussed about my dream here and to build an ADU and have my families like moving like later. I have two like lovely sons. We come from Irvine and Laguna Beach is like our ideal like a dream vacation place 20 minutes away, which is like a really, really a big deal to us. So I want to hear from the neighbors about the impact, because like I never hear from anyone about anything they concern. Like if there is anything like we can work it out. I'd love to hear. Yeah, pretty much that's it. And for when I go over with my architect about this plan, we had thought that like for this ADU plan, like it can be approved without public hearing. So honestly, I'm not expecting this, but I'm not prepared for this. But anyway, I'm not too familiar with the process. Yes, but like if there is anything like I can help or the information I can offer, I love to.
Could you just clarify for us, which property do you own?
21391 Stands Lane.
Stands.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank
Yes.
you.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, close the public hearing.
So I think all the time what we hear, the number one concern from residents is about how everything takes so slow at the city and there's so much bureaucracy and red tape. And what we have here is a situation where, and I respect the concerns that were raised about this, but none of those concerns. So even Megan, if the design review board wanted to deny, let's say we play this out, we sent this first a coastal development permit. And then it went to the neighbors, and then this already did go to the neighbors, correct?
Correct. So the neighbors are receiving
was
notice,
notice.
but it just doesn't have the same mechanism to trigger a hearing that a
Got it.
CDP would.
But and none of those, okay. And then, but hypothetically, let's say that it triggered a hearing. The design review board couldn't deny this and say, oh, we don't want this ADU because we're concerned about, we just don't want an ADU.
Correct. And that's not within the power of the CDP. And the CDP is issued in order to protect coastal resources. And that's the extent of it. So to the extent there's conditions on a CDP, it's to mitigate impacts on coastal resources. I mean, there could be extreme scenarios where the mitigation, the imposition of mitigation, I'm trying to think of a scenario in which, you're basically proposing to build an ADU on the sand or something, right? There are scenarios in which they could impose significant conditions or whatever, and typically it's just to address the coastal resources that are at issue, and it's not a yes or no on the ADU. It's just a mitigation issue.
And so the notice was sent out. Has there been a claim that there will be an impact on coastal resources from this ADU?
I think that as I understand the information that was provided, there was a question about public access, and there was a question about this ESHA component as it relates to the property. And I think we've talked about that. We've been talking about the ESHA component, which is that, it's not the de minimis waiver is limited use if it's next to environmentally sensitive habitat areas and cited and designed. If it's decided and designed to prevent impacts, then de minimis waiver is usable. And if it's not, then you would go through the CDP route. So that's one issue. And then the other, that comes from the Coastal Act. So that's the first issue. And then the second issue is the public access issue. And there's a difference between public access and coastal access. And there's not evidence of coastal access issues here.
But again, there hasn't been an allegation that this would negatively impact public access or negatively impact the WQ ESA, right? Just adjacent to it.
No, I think, and I'm sorry that this didn't get forwarded to all of you, but I think based on Penny's comment, she is concerned about the impact on the ESHA and the watercourse, which she says the watercourse is would be just mere feet away from the ADU, runs close to the property line, coming down the hill through the open space and connecting with Laguna Canyon Creek. So whether you agree with her or not, I think she's raised a concern about that, and she's raised a concern about the adjacent open space, which she says is now part of the Michael and Tricia Burn Canyon Preserve, acts as a wildlife corridor between Aliso and Woods Canyon Wilderness Park and Laguna Coast Wilderness Park. So however you think about it, the issue, I think an issue's been raised by one.
But on the drainage question.
Can I ask a question, Bob? Is she saying that there's impact on the ESHA? What the impacts would be? I mean, if you have a landscaping plan, maybe there's native plants that you've planted could impact the ESHA, invade the ESHA. What is the impacts that she's talking about?
Well, that's a good question, George. I just read you what I got. Here's my concern. It's process, right? And I hear Cody's point loud and clear. In fact, the Housing and Human Services Committee has communicated to council that there's a great deal of concern about this whole coastal development permit issue and not wanting it to add to time and expense of ADUs. And I get that. And specifically looking for ways whether the CDP process can just be used to address the 25-foot high ADUs, not the single story ADUs. So that's a concern. I get it. But I mean, what we have in front of us tonight is a sentence that I think is just factually incorrect. It says in the staff report, the project is not located adjacent to any public, and then we went through it, land resource, environmentally sensitive habitat areas. It is. Maybe in the end, that's not a big deal, but there aren't going to be that many ADUs that are going to be immediately adjacent to environmentally sensitive habitat areas, I don't believe. So, I mean, how else? I don't know how you get closer than this. So I just think that there ought to be a process where people get to make their pitch on this one in particular. I mean, it's tough on the applicant. I know that it's next to an ESHA, or property that's equivalent to ESHA, but it is. So that's my view on it. It should go through the process.
Again, is the standard for a de minimis waiver that it's not adjacent to? Because I think Bob's right, that statement was wrong, but is that the standard at play, or is the standard that it's not going to impact coastal resources?
So I think that according to our code, a de minimis waiver can be used for projects that do not impact coastal resources. So the the director can issue a de minimis waiver if the development satisfies all of the following. It's within the coastal zone and not appealable, it's not within the appealable zone, not located within an area where the Coastal Commission retains jurisdiction and no local public hearing is otherwise required. So we've satisfied that requirement. The proposed development will be consistent with LCP and involves no potential for any adverse effect, either individually or cumulatively on coastal resources. And I think that's the very issue we're debating. Staff had determined that it's not. And there's a question now as to whether there's a conflict of the evidence. And then if a project involves a violation, it's not subject to the de minimis requirements. And then there are a list of projects that are ineligible. And those are projects that involve questions as to conformity with the LCP, projects with known opposition or public controversy, projects that involve divisions of land, and projects for which the executive director of the Coastal Commission is in the process of making a determination regarding a violation or appealability of a CDP. So the language in the staff report is coming from the Coastal Act, which was the language I was as to next to the ESHA. So I think there's a little bit of confusion. I think that some of this confusion may be stemming from actually the drafting of the staff report. But I certainly hear Councilmember Whalen's point, and I'm not sure I think from staff's perspective, they thought there was not a an impact, but now we have a question of an impact before you as to a coastal resource based on Penny's statement. And I don't know that there's enough evidence before you to make the determination of whether that is resolvable. So, I mean, one option is so you could require the CDP, you could continue it and let staff figure it out. I think part of I don't know if staff feels like you have enough information to address that issue specifically, because I think that comes down to, does the proximity of the edge of the ADU compared to the ESHA, is it with certainty that there is not an impact there, or is there a potential for impact? Because Penny is effectively saying there is a potential for impact.
Staff is pretty confident that there won't be any impact enough to degrade the ESHA. In addition, like I mentioned earlier regarding the setbacks, minimum setbacks for ADUs are 4 feet from the rear property line, 4 feet from the side property line. The proposed ADU already provides 5 extra feet of setback by providing a 9 feet 8 inch setback. And then as the area in pink demonstrate, if required, and it depends on the building division's approval, they can actually pull the ADU even closer to the primary dwelling, up to having a potential rear setback of 15 feet 8 inches, as opposed to just 4 feet.
Is that discretionary on the building department?
No, it's not discretionary. So our code requires 10-foot, minimum 10-foot separation between 2 buildings. But the building division can make a determination that they can actually shorten that distance. It would just require
discretionary.
Oh, yeah, sorry. It
That's my
just
question.
depends on fire rating. Yeah.
Okay.
So
how-
could I follow up and just ask, you say staff's confident that there's no impact. Can you articulate for me again why there is no impact? What are the facts that you're relying on to reach that conclusion?
Sure. So a few questions were raised, starting off with the public access. So the Coastal Act focuses on sea access issues and recreation access issues. This development of an ADU on private property near an ESHA does not interfere with public access to the sea or public access to recreation areas. And then the second part was the ESHA part of it, which in the Coastal Act addresses this by stating that development in areas adjacent to ESHAs shall be sited and designed to prevent impacts which would significantly degrade such areas. And development in areas adjacent, essentially, staff has determined that the siting and the design is sufficient to not have any potential significant impacts to degrade the ESHA.
Yeah.
If the standard was that sort of as the staff report lays out, if the standard was whether it was adjacent or not, I would agree with you, Bob. But I think the standard here is whether there was an impact on coastal resources. And I think staff clearly has outlined into the public record the facts that make it very clear that they did that analysis and there is no impact on coastal resources. So I'm going to move to support the de minimis waiver and good staff presentation.
So I have a follow-up question for Megan. I agree with you that it doesn't sound like there's an issue directly under our code, because our code requires impact, right? And I agree, staff's sort of articulated why there's no impact. But then there is Coastal Act language that to me seemed less clear. What does that say again?
So the Coastal Act addresses environmentally sensitive habitat areas and adjacent development. And it states that development in areas adjacent to ESHAs shall be sited and designed to prevent impacts which would significantly degrade such areas and shall be compatible with the use of such areas. And as to development in ESHA areas, it goes on to say development in areas adjacent to environmentally sensitive habitat areas shall be sited and designed to prevent impacts which would significantly degrade those areas and shall be compatible with the continuance of those habitat and recreation areas. So it's not saying that it can't be next to an ESHA. I think it's a problem with the staff, the way that the staff report was drafted. I think that it just is kind of conflating the issues, but I think we can have it next to an ESHA and still use a de minimis waiver as long as, to staff's point, it's cited appropriately to prevent impacts.
So it's really about the structure that's being built, whether it would have that impact on the ESHA. Another kind of structure may have an impact, but this one doesn't. That's what you're saying, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't quite understand all that, but what would impact the ESHA if the structure was twice the size, higher, wider? I don't know. It's still confusing to me that way, but I don't think there's grounds for us to block this and require a CDP. I agree with you, Alex.
Yeah. Do you want to?
So you made a motion?
Yeah, I'll move the. Oh, and I had some questions on Terrace Way. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so I'll move the recommended action.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
No, okay, 3-1. Bob, anything else on that item? No, nothing on Terrace Way. You're good. Checking. Okay, Bob, you have item 17.
Yeah, item 17, no, it wasn't was it 17? 18. Yeah, 17 was in
Oh, yeah, 17 is not
18,
18.
yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, 18.
18?
Yeah, I was contacted by Councilmember Orgill. The only reason I pulled it was he had asked me whether I would consider joining him in recommendation 4 as a liaison to work with staff and the consultant. And I told him I would bring that up with council and I'd be willing to do that if council so desires.
Okay, anything else on this item?
Well, I would make the same offer myself. I think when I got on the council, or when Alex got on the council, he asked me if he could join the Housing Human Services, or I should say the Environmental Sustainability Committee. I said yes. When Mark Orgill wanted to lead on the coastal natural communities, I said, sure, go ahead. We'll work together on it. I haven't seen that kind of cooperation for my part. I'm in a minority of the council and have largely been ignored in any real sort of effort to get me on anything that's on one of these subcommittees, in which there seems to be a dozen or more working at any one time. So I don't understand why the voters who voted for me are being sidelined, as well as myself. And I would like to be on that because I worked on the Housing and Human Services Committee for 2 years. I've been a strong advocate for housing and would be happy to work with Orgill. So.
Okay, I'll open the public hearing. Anybody want to speak on this item?
First, I have to talk about 16. The complainer had an opportunity to talk to staff, but the idea of bringing it up at the last minute while the council hears it should just be thrown out on the basis. Now, let me talk to the subject. I'm speaking on behalf of the Housing and Human Services Committee, which unanimously supports the motion in your package, supporting the Community Land Trust and emphasizing the importance of community inclusion in the early stages of the organization. We also enthusiastically support the consulting agreement and are very impressed with the experience and credentials of the consultants. And a salute to Jeremy and Jennifer for putting together an RFP that elicited some top, what looks like top quality folks. Also, their set out program has the right elements. We do have some concern regarding the proposed organizational process, which the consultant's plan works to address, but which we would like to reinforce. The Community Land Trust is a nonprofit organization separate from the city, and while there will be some city financial support, thank you, the primary financial support will come from the community in the form of money and property donations. We have the good fortune of a great deal of wealth in Laguna Beach and a tradition of amazing level of charitable support. Friendship Shelter, Playhouse, Art Museum, Marine Mammal Center, Suzy Q, Food Bank, Community Clinic. It goes on and on. Because the Community Land Trust focuses on real estate, it will be seeking support in the millions. That's the trick. It ain't cheap. In our small community, charitable giving is tied both to the community's value of the mission and the community members asking for the money. It's just the way it works here. And I think it's pretty good. The land trust can have a wide range of possible goals, seeking property donations, developing housing, rehabbing, expanding housing, provided rental. If you look at land trust, there's all sorts of possibilities of what it can do, and it depends on the community. We believe that the success of the Laguna Beach Land Trust will depend on the efforts of the Citizen Board. The Human Services Committee believes that it is critical that the consultants identify and engage and include the citizen founders early in the process. You need the founder group to own the goals of the organization. We would also hope that the Human Services Committee would have a participation in the formation process. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Cody.
George Dubin with you, speaking on behalf of the Community Land Trust as well. Part of this started about 1.5 years ago with properties in the canyon that are been always occupied by artists and creatives in our community. I've been working with Councilman Orgel for pretty much that whole time in communicating the needs of the art community. I know that we have, excuse me, we have some serious issues with affordability with the our creative community. I've been here a long time and seen a lot of artists and musicians and other people having to leave town because it was not only can't afford to live here, but there's no spaces for them to work in. And that's a big deal. So the Community Land Trust, which is something that other communities all over the country have been involved in as they start to feel the loss of their soul and vitality because the creatives are getting pushed out of their communities. It's been happening here for a long time. And, I wish this had a process that started a lot sooner. The reason I bring that up is some of you have been to a couple of properties in the canyon, the Burkhart properties. They are now going to get listed very soon. And unfortunately, the trust is not in place to maybe help preserve those because these are light industrial spaces that since they were built in the 70s and early 80s, they've been always occupied by artists, craftsmen, and creative folk. A couple of examples, when I moved into 2535, there was a gentleman there that worked for Buckminster Fuller. Fuller actually came to the complex quite a number of times to look at the work that this gentleman was doing. Our 9/11 memorial was fabricated there. Marlo Bartels is down the street, along with Casey Parlett and Tom Lamb, who I think you all know. They've all had a pretty major impact on our community visually. So we're kind of at a point where community support as well as council support is going to be critical to try to save some of these properties. As well, I think scared them. Anyways, I just want to emphasize that I know that there's other needs for workforce housing, senior housing, but this is a very critical time, I think, for our community, and I'm speaking on behalf of them only at this point. And I hope you'll support this and also ensure that it moves as quickly as possible forward. So thank you.
Thank you, George. John?
Hi, all. John Zigowitz. I want to speak a little bit to, this seems to dovetail beautifully, right? When we're talking about the pillars of community, culture, and heritage, it kind of fits right in there with culture and heritage beautifully, right? So when George talks about that, you know, bringing all those together, it is something that, you know, we want to make sure, and I hope you guys are looking at, this is all one giant big picture, and to be going forward with the stewardship program and the stewardship mentality, it really is a beautiful thing to tie it all together.
Anybody else? Okay, I'll close the public hearing, bring it back. Okay, who wants to start? Somebody?
I mean, I'll start. I think in 2015, I came to the council before I was elected, 5 years before that, and I said, gee whiz, we give, we take $250,000 a year to buy open space. Why don't we allocate money for affordable housing? And I recall Bob on the council looked at Robert Zerschmid, and they talked about it, talked about the in lieu fees. Nothing was done. Finally, we did get a lot of done after that, and I've been pushing for a mechanism that is a solid mechanism to provide the funding for affordable housing. You can't do it, and I've said this many, many times before Alex joined the Housing and Human Services Committee. You need public funding and you need private funding. You need both. This provides the private funding, and I'm grateful that it's coming forward to us. You also need the public funding, and that has to be a substantial amount of money every year to be put into affordable housing, be it new housing or be it preserving housing that already exists, right? And preserving it. And that's what I think this will help do. But you still need to add you still need to add funding, and isn't quite there yet with the TOT on ADUs, which is 500,000 and only usable when there is a balanced budget. So we need more funding for that. And I've proposed this before, and that's a tax on or a fee on those 2,400 homes that are not occupied and essentially used as investments by people who don't live here. And I think that money could be used for affordable housing and to fund this program as in partnership. So I'm going to support this tonight, but that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Yeah, to George's point, I agree about the, you said ADUs, but you meant short-term lodging for the,
pardon me?
You said ADUs,
STLs.
but you meant the short-term lodging, right? The
Yeah,
that you would.
short-term lodging.
Exactly. No, I agree.
ADUs.
I agree with you, George. We need to get to the point where I think ultimately all that money that's coming in from short-term lodging should be going towards housing, because there's clearly a nexus because it's taking away from the rental
Absolutely.
market. I'm supportive of the recommended action here. Bob has taken my spot on the Housing and Human Services Committee, and so I think it makes sense for him to work with Mark on this, given that we want, as Cody said, we want the Housing Committee to be very involved. So I'm supportive of that recommended action. And yeah, I totally agree with George about the need for public and private funding. So
Is there any other comment?
Well, I just want to reinforce, I mean, Cody made the point, there was a good, robust discussion at the Housing and Human Services Committee about the need to involve the community stakeholders up front. And looking at the scope of services, you know, that's attached as Appendix A, I think it's clear that the consultant is charged with doing just that. So, you know, that needs to be and remain a central focus, you know, during this process. So I'm glad we're getting around to it.
Yeah, I support Alex's, is that a motion, Alex?
yeah, move the recommended action with the addition Bob recommended.
Well, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll say aye, but I do have a feeling that the council has excluded me in a number of situations where we've had committee assignments, subcommittees, and deliberately excluded me from even considering me in any of those roles. And I think that's a unfair practice of the council. I think it's anti-democratic and it's not fair on its basis. That's what I'll say. And I know the council can do anything it wants, Alex.
No,
Yeah, I just said the council can do anything it wants. It can elect the same mayor over and over and over again. But I'm just saying fairness implies that you treat the minority the same way you treat the majority. And that's not being done. Thank you.
Okay, that moves item 19. Bob, did you pull this as well?
I did, and Alex and I ask that this go on, and it's further update on the, Molten Miguel Water District withdrawal from SACWA. And I think maybe let Gavin, who's been doing a lot of the work on it, speak first to provide an update. And I know Alex and I both have a few comments.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. So just a quick update. I know I brought forward all 9 agreements that we are working through with all of the agencies that are working with SACWA. We continue to work through those agreements with all the attorneys from all the different agencies, including SACWA itself. In fact, we have another meeting on Thursday. We're pushing really hard to kind of finalize those agreements as soon as possible. I'm also working with all of the general managers as well on a separate MOU, just to make sure we have, once we get the allocation from Molten Miguel, which is about 21.5 million goes to SACWA, we want to make sure we're all in agreement how that money is allocated, and that'll be part of those agreements when we present to the council as well. And I'm working with the ad hoc committee, kind of walking through all those agreements as well. And what this kind of update just is, talks a little bit about, or updates the council on all things that have happened to date. But it also talks a little bit about all the work the agencies have done, and really the big contribution that we will be receiving, especially the benefit Laguna, is the 12.5 million that's going to go to the coastal treatment plant. So once we receive that money, I think down the road, and with the help of Bob and the ad hoc committee as well, and the council, we'll be looking to how best to spend that money to kind of improve upon the coastal treatment plant as well, trying to right size it and kind of bring down costs for the residents as well. And that's kind of the long-term approach. But we're working very hard, all of the agencies working very hard to kind of bring these agreements to a conclusion, and hopefully we can bring something back to the council as early as October. That's kind of the goal.
Hey, Gavin, I have a question, or Bob or Alex. So they're going to put 12.5 million into the, modernizing the coastal treatment plant. But what about the other 9 million? What does it go into?
So the other 9 million, a portion of it is to reimburse all the agencies for the regional, the basically giving up the regional treatment plant to Molten Miguel. So there'll be money coming back to all the agencies, and it's spread out amongst all those. And then MOU kind of talks about that. So that money would come back, a portion of it would come back to Laguna based on capacity it had at regional. And we'd probably recommend, and I, of course, I'm talking to the ad hoc committee, but reserving that money for future admin costs and treatment costs at the regional treatment plant. There's another portion of that, which is admin, which SACWA itself has admin costs to deal with all of the 3 treatment plants. Obviously, it's giving up a regional treatment plant to Molten Miguel, but there are kind of admin costs associated with all that. And we're going to be winding that down over about 5 years. The 3.5 million is to say, we know, at least for Molten's contribution, we know that you just can't unwind that quickly. So here is 3.5 million kind of just to help compensate you until such time you can kind of unwind a lot of that, which is, again, another process in itself. But one more thing I want to add. I want to say all the agencies are working very collaboratively together. The GMs have got together. We're all working very well together to kind of get these agreements finished. And I'd open it to Bob and Alex's comments as well.
Do we think 12.5 million is enough to modernize a plant? And how did that number come about?
In 2030, because they pay for what percent of the plant? Like 40%? They pay for 40% of the coastal treatment plant, and they're obligated to do so until 2030. But in 2030, they're going to stop paying that, and because they don't use the plant, right?
Yeah.
So what we need to do is right size it and modernize it so we can lower our costs, because otherwise we're going to have to, our ratepayers are going to have to increase their rates to pay for that gap. So, and it's also just old. And so.
No, I know it's old, but I just wondered, like, who figured out the number was 12.5 million? I mean,
it was a negotiation, but there was an effort made. So the coastal treatment plant is South Coast Water District, Laguna Beach, City of Laguna Beach, Emerald Bay Community Services District, and Molten, right? And Molten is like 40% of it, but they don't use any of the capacity of it, but they still owe into it, right? So some analysis was done, I think by staff, it wasn't engineering type analysis, but analysis is, okay, what would it cost generally to update that plant, right size it is currently, I think 6.5 million gallons a day that can process. It probably needs to be resized to about 4 million. So they came up with a number, and it's more than 12.5 million, but 12.5 is Molten's share,
I see.
right? We'd all have to pay in anyway.
I see.
And South Coast is gonna have to pay in, and we'll pay a little bit, not much, they're a couple percent. So short answer to your question is no, 12.5 is not the full amount. It, it's really Molten's share accelerated and
I see.
paid in.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think just having, Molten's not motivated the same way we all are, the other three agencies, right? Because they're not using it.
Right.
And so I think the whole process of redesigning it is going to work much more smoothly. And I think we'll get a better, in the end, we'll get a better new treatment plant than we would with Molten designing it or helping to design it.
Yeah, that's good. How many hours have you spent on this, Bob?
A lot.
I know you have.
There've been numerous meetings, probably hundreds of hours, but I think, and Gavin, I want to give him credit. He's done a great job pulling the general managers together. And I think we're in a good place with it. We're not there yet, but everybody's saying we're pretty close. So it'll come back to council, obviously, one more time. But I mean, the other potential benefit of this, and Alex has actually done more analysis on this, is you want to talk about the sort of the potential for reducing the outfall.
Oh, yeah, because right now we're sending all the treated wastewater into the ocean. So, but we could potentially sell that because we don't have purple pipes. So we could sell that treated wastewater to a different agency, and whether it's South Coast or Molten, and then potentially get water through the Oasis project. So I think it's cool because we're going to create cleaner ocean water. We're going to have more water reliability in South Orange County, not from this specific project, but from the Oasis project. It just seems like it's one of those unique opportunities where every agency can come away better off than when they went into this. So I'm hoping that if there's more, because I mean, when we had that joint meeting in May, I thought we were going to be done with this in the summer, and we're still here. So if there's more delays, maybe we do another joint meeting where everyone can get in the room and we figure out what are the issues and just address them, so we don't have to be talking about this in 4 months. What do you think about that, Gavin? Or you think that won't be necessary?
From what I've been involved in all the attorney meetings and the GM meetings, I don't think it's necessary. We all know we have a lot of momentum behind us, and we're all kind of moving at a very, I think, a pretty good pace. Of course, the attorneys, like I said, they want to go through, they're going through, and they've met, I want to say 3 times. This will be their 4th, and they continue to meet weekly. So they are really moving. I think when you have to get that many agencies together, of course, it can be difficult to kind of herd them all together. But we are, I think, moving at a pretty good pace. And like I said, you've got 7 agencies, so 7 attorneys in the room, all looking at these things, kind of fine tuning it. And the GMs ourselves, we kind of know, and we're committed, at least everybody's committed to the momentum, is keep pushing it, because the momentum is here because all the agencies are on board. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think Laguna Beach, I mean, we're the stewards of the ocean, so we have a big stake in this. So it's important that we get this done. So
yes,
I appreciate it.
Open the public hearing. Anybody want to speak? Come on up. You're very patient.
Good evening, everybody. Ray Heimster with Orange County Coastkeeper. I hung out for this item because treatment plants are a really important thing to this. And I really liked what I heard. And a recent study by the Southern California Coastal Watershed Project showed that treatment plants along Southern California coast, even those that are meeting their permit requirements, are significantly adding to ocean acidification. So the concept of, through this complex negotiation of getting a smaller, better plant that would ideally be 100% recycled water, just want to express our support all the way for that. And, kudos for keeping up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to say that I support this initiative, and I got to meet with June Kim Lopez, the general manager and the CEO of the Molten Water District, and had a meeting and got to really see their Oasis project and what they're planning on doing and trying to implement. And if there's some things that can be tweaked a little bit to benefit to keep the ocean clean, I'm for it. So
Thank you, Greg. Anybody else? Okay, close the public hearing. See, do we need
Just receive and file.
just receive and file? Yeah, I think this is a good work on your part. Like, you guys did a lot of good work on this. All right, thank you. Okay, that moves us to our business. Now we're finally off our consent calendar. Lately, our consent calendar is dominating our time. Okay, regular business 20, Independence Day celebration debrief. Hello there.
Thank you, Mayor. While Brendan gets set up, I'll just do a brief introduction. Brendan will be providing our emergency operations coordinator will be providing a presentation. He'll be quarterbacking the presentation tonight. After he's finished, we have your public safety chiefs as well as Director Michael Litchie here for any questions related to the celebration, the 4th of July celebration event and the logistics behind that. And I just like to make one comment that I'd like to acknowledge the men and women, both in public safety, public works, and in community services who put their holiday aside to provide a wonderful and safe day's activity. So with that, I will turn it over to Brendan. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeremy. I was going to say good evening, Mayor Kemp, but good evening, Council. Thank you very much. Brendan Manning, I'm your Emergency Operations Coordinator, and I'm appreciative of the opportunity to be here. I'll summarize the public safety impact staffing from our 4th of July celebration, and I'm supported and encouraged by our public safety chiefs who can get into details if you have those sorts of questions. So overall 4th of July summary, all our public safety departments, and I think residents and city staff as well, saw an observed increase in visitors. It was certainly a busy 4th of July. All our departments through our dispatch saw an increased calls for service, and we'll go through the details there. All the departments, public safety departments, public works, other city staff, increased staffing on the 4th of July as well. So to Jeremy's point, appreciative of all the city staff that do work on that 4th of July holiday. For those that weren't aware, we had a traffic management change on Laguna Canyon Road. I'll take a second. And just in the past, we get a Caltrans permit to take that middle lane, the turn lane, and make it all outbound. This year, based on what we've observed in the past, recommended by the police department, we did not get that permit. And the police department didn't observe any significant change in the time for people to leave the city at the end of the night. That decision was made for safety. It's been observed in the past that people don't really understand when that middle lane is open to all traffic and people still trying to take that left turn across. So that was a significant operational change that was observed. And then, as we know, and as we'll get into, we had the drone show instead of the fireworks, which changed our operations, but didn't change our staffing. So you'll see the theme throughout is that increase in call volume. So our dispatchers are extremely busy on a good day. Certainly on the 4th of July, extremely busy. So the year over year, this year, 517 calls for service, and that's across the public safety departments. Compared to last year, it was 397 calls for service, spread out across all of our public safety agencies. First up, I'll talk about the police department. Typical summer staffing is about 60, both sworn and professional staff. 4th of July is pretty significant increased staffing. So this year there were 94, both sworn and our professional staff, which is our administrative staff and non-sworn officers. Police responded, and this is over the 24-hour period. That includes the 4th of July. So calls for service, police department responded to 322 calls for service. I'm not that great at math, but if you break that down, it's a lot of calls for every hour. Police were very busy that day, as were all of us. Specifically wanted to call out our animal services team with 10 specific calls for our animal services team during their shifts. And then the total arrests were 4 alcohol, drug-related charges, and then 1 specific non or unrelated to 4th of July arrest as well. Fire department, typical summer schedule for the fire department is 17. We had 23 firefighters and ambulance operators, and that was basically due to an additional squad engine as well as an additional ambulance just for the daytime hours to help mitigate some of those long response times or long transport times. You can see our calls for service. we had two fires, a dumpster fire and an oven fire, both mitigated pretty quickly. And then one of those significant impacts that always gets us is those mutual aid responses, both to Emerald Bay, but also sending an engine to Northern California for a wildfire. And so, you know, we're constantly, we're supported from mutual aid, but it also will take our resources away even on busy summers, which is why we staff up. Marine safety, I think there's been some discussion. I think some public releases as well about the marine safety. Typical staff is 94 on a summer weekday, 113 staff. Obviously this year being the first year with all of the South Laguna beaches, second year with all of our South Laguna beaches. Thank Jeremy. It's harder to compare that on a year-to-year basis, but like all the departments, marine safety is an all hands on deck. And you can see both here and in your staff report, the significant increase in calls for both our rescues, the ordinances that they're enforcing, and the prevention. So as with all, lots of calls for service for marine safety, extremely busy, both their dispatch as well as the police department. I'll be remiss before I get to the drone light show. I just want to comment on the public works team as well, not called out here. We always say that Public Works is the public safety department that's not a public safety department, and the tremendous work that the staff and the workers for Public Works do both in the advance leading up to and then on the day of to make sure our restroom facilities, the beaches, we have our access, everything remains clean and accessible. Extremely busy day for our Public Works team as well. Quick summary for the drone light show. 300 drones. If anybody got to see the drones up on the lawn bowling, it's pretty impressive seeing all the drones sitting out there. Drones were in place of our traditional fireworks display this year. 15-minute drone show. Lots of patriotic imagery, but lots of Laguna Beach specific imagery, which is always fun and interesting to see. And then it was broadcast on the local radio stations and streamed online. The cost for the drone show this year was $75,000, which is a competitive rate for a standard 15-minute 300 drone show in comparison, especially on a busy 4th of July. And then one of the considerations is that 15-minute mark is about the maximum that you can do with one set of drones. Extending beyond that 15-minute mark requires a second set of drones. And so impacts that cost pretty significantly due to the battery life, the battery time of them flying. So recommendations to City Council tonight is to receive the report. Thanks very much. And then further conversation and direct staff for next year's 4th of July celebration. I'm available for any questions about this, any other further details. I have a great team behind me.
Thank you, Brendan. That was a good report. Questions for Brendan?
Maybe just one kind of overarching question, which is great report, by the way, in terms of all the data and detail here. But usually you learn something every time you go through an experience, right? Are there any takeaways from this year that you'll look to implement next year in any of the departments or Public Works?
So one of the significant things I think from my team's, the emergency management side of things, was looking at how the change without doing the traffic management outbound on LCR. And the takeaway and all the feedback from the officers that were working that day, as well as the command staff, was that worked. We didn't see a significant enough decrease in that time to get people out of the city. That's one of the takeaways that current plan is to keep that moving forward logistically, as well as the safety side of things.
Sorry, anybody want to speak on this item? Hey, Greg.
Last time, sorry. So actually on the 4th, I helped put out a fire in South Laguna above the hospital that was started by some kids lighting off fireworks illegally. And I pulled over, called 911, and the fire department was there super fast. It was pretty amazing. I just want to say that I hope we bring the professional fireworks back, the drone show. Yeah, I didn't like it. I live in South Laguna Beach, and we could barely see it off of our patio. And I've been here 40 years, and every 4th of July, I love watching the fireworks and enjoy it. I think it brings the community together. It's something that everybody can, enjoy. I know there's a lot of differences of opinion relating to pollution and relating to noise and stuff, but I believe that the destructive tourism is a way larger impact to polluting the ocean from the actual people that come to the beach and leave their trash versus the pollution that is caused by, unfortunately, the fireworks. But I have looked at, there is some possible opportunities for these professional firework companies to create less, there's a certain like chemical that's used and there's different alternatives to use. Maybe that's something to look at, but I say bring the fireworks back. The drone show was not fun. It was not exciting. And I know that a lot of people in the community want the fireworks back. So that's just what I want to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. Anybody else? Okay, I'll close public hearing. What do you guys think about fireworks versus drones?
Well, I'd like to start because I was one of the proponents of going to drones, and as a liaison to the ESC along with Alex, I think it looked promising. But it's not about that. And it was about, for me, it was about the pollution it causes, the dogs, the 10 calls for dogs that, run around going crazy, PSDD, and being environmentally friendly to the ocean as well as the environment itself, because this is on the day of the 4th of July and after, probably the most polluted air we ever have in Southern California. So the impacts are real. Fireworks shows have grown. We have them in Irvine. We have them everywhere, including Emerald Bay, which is as big as ours or bigger. With all of that said, though, what I saw was we didn't have enough time to do a great show, drone show, and maybe you can't do one with 300 drones, no noise, and just not enough drones, and the expense of it as well. So I'm tiny. I hate to say I want to go back to the fireworks show, but I feel that way, and I feel it's not about me though. It's about what the residents want, and that's my opening remarks. Anyway, I'd like to hear my colleagues.
I think that was well said. I agree with you, George. I think it's always good as a city to be trying new things and seeing if they work. And, I think the drone show, one day maybe it could work, but we're not Disneyland. We're not going to be able to spend a crazy amount. I mean, I've seen there's that Texas drone show that was really cool at a concert somewhere, that if we could have that here, maybe I'd be open to that, but that's probably going to cost $500,000. And we're not Disneyland. We need to focus on the basics of, public safety, infrastructure, mitigating the impact of tourists. And so I agree with George in going back to the fireworks. And if there's ways that we can mitigate the environmental damage, I think we should look into it. I ultimately think that the way that we create cleaner ocean water is what we're doing with the coastal treatment plant. That's how we're going to really clean up our ocean. This is one day a year, and it's really such an important celebration of our country and a great day to celebrate. So I'm supportive of going back again, it was a 1-year trial, so I'm supportive of not continuing that and going back to the fireworks.
Any comment, Bob?
No, it's clear, as I think as Greg said, it's clearly people on both sides of this issue, right? So there's probably more that want to have the fireworks back than want to continue the drones. I do wonder, about an alternative where maybe could we approach some of the hotels like Montage, Surf and Sand, Pacific Edge, and maybe have multiple drone shows down the coast where you'd have, one south and one north. I mean, there was, there's clearly some impact on the ocean, and you see, I think up in LA, they're even having difficulty getting permits because I don't know whether it's LA Regional Water Quality Control Board or some agency that's put the kibosh on it. So I guess, first of all, you have to get a permit. And I don't know whether the landscape is changing on that or not, but then there was also an interesting, if you want to try to make everybody happy, we got an interesting suggestion today on email, which was have the drone show, but then have a fireworks finale.
Yeah.
Which that's kind of
be
interesting. Split it down the middle and do it that way. But you know, I would, it doesn't sound like there's enough enthusiasm for it, but I think it's worth exploring maybe with the hotels, whether they would want to do it. And hasn't ever been anything in South Laguna, you know, it's always been up here. Maybe Aliso Beach is a venue that should be looked at.
Well, you know, Three Arch Bay didn't do their fireworks because they said they couldn't get insurance, right? So I don't know what that's all about. Haven't we used the same vendor for fireworks for a really long time? Didn't they kind of threaten not to move away from us because we were moving away from them okay. Well, you know, you know, also we did get some complaints about people, depending on where they were on the coastline, that they couldn't see the drone show. I mean, it's just kind of a positional thing. The other thing is what happens with the fireworks every year is there's so much smoke that pretty soon you can't see them.
That's true.
And I wonder if we could if we did the fireworks, if we could time them differently, like if we could go, I know we usually do them like at 9, right? Maybe we go a little bit earlier than Emerald Bay or something, so we could people in Laguna could actually see our own fireworks, because a lot of times, I've been a lot of times where there's just so much smoke, it's just, all you hear is the booms.
Yeah.
I don't
That's
know
a
if
good
we-
point, Mayor. I think that what happens is that that day is usually very calm and the smoke accumulates and you can't see the fireworks from certain positions. If you're South Laguna or North, you might be able to see them because the smoke is right in front of you.
Mhm.
But I don't know how you get rid of the smoke.
Well, then the air quality's bad for
Yeah.
a few days after that because but I don't know. I'm okay with doing the fireworks. Maybe we can see if we can time them a little bit differently. I don't know. I mean, we could ask the hotels, you know, particularly the hotels in the south, all the big 3 down there, maybe they would do a drone show. I mean, I'm happy to ask them. We're having a lot of meetings with them.
I think, Sue, you had a really good idea of at the end of summer doing a drone show like at Main Beach, and you could have like because I think a drone show, it's important, you have to have a concert to make it work.
Yeah.
So separate from the sports.
$75,000.
Well, not 70, if we could get someone else to pay for it, I think that'd be a cool idea.
Well,
But I think you need music with the drone show for it to work. And
Yeah.
that's kind of the problem with how, you know, that's one of the issues.
I agree. That's the ultimate goal
Yeah.
to eliminate fireworks if we could. But the people like the noise too, so it's a problem. But if we could do that and have a partnership to pay for it, public-private partnership, I would love that.
Separate from the 4th of July,
Yeah,
but just
separate-
as like a
separate.
resident
I
celebration.
mean, I always think it'd be
Yeah.
great to have, since, you know, like this time
Yeah.
of year, to have a residence like close down the street,
Yeah.
have like, it's kind of like a mini, whatever, fed or something where we have music out on the street. We have like a fireworks show or something or a drone show
Yeah.
to celebrate like, okay, we got our town mostly back.
But for the 4th of July, I'm supportive of just
Yeah.
going
okay.
back to fireworks.
Yeah,
You
me
want to
too.
share anything, Michael? No, just in case. Michael is the drone expert.
Yeah, exactly.
Speak.
I was just here to answer any specific questions. I will let you know, I think after the drone show, we definitely heard a lot of comments from the community. I was out there that whole evening, so I heard comments directly from folks who were out watching the drone show, both residents and non-residents, and then a lot of comments, as I'm sure you did after. So I think it's fair to say the reaction to the show was mixed. There were some people who really liked it, thought it was cool. We're doing something different. We're happy that the impacts on pets, and as Councilmember Weiss mentioned, people with aversions to loud booms and explosions, that they were happy. But a drone show is not a fireworks show. It's not the same thing. It never will be. It's not omnidirectional, so you can't see it the same from all sides. So folks who are in North Laguna who were used to having a great view of the fireworks are looking at kind of the back of the drone show. It's more like a movie screen. I think we had a lot of lessons learned if we did another drone show. And so I think there's things we could do to improve it. However, many of those things would require more funding. So, the 75,000 would cover basically the 300 drones we had last year. If we wanted to do other things, for example, some cities took the drones and rotated every image 90 degrees so that you didn't have that same issue with people looking at the back of it, but that requires more drones and fewer animations. I will just say you're in good company looking at other cities that did drone shows last year. I just watched a city council meeting from the city of Napa in Northern California that they had about a week ago. And they had this exact same discussion you're having tonight. It was the first year they did a drone show last year on 4th of July. They actually voted to try it again this year for 2025 with some modifications. But the same issues with people kind of mixed on the environmental benefits of doing a drone show, but the tradition and noise of fireworks shows that, you know, didn't set as well with some people who just really like that. They had a lot of the same problems we had with music. They also simulcast music. We had Ed Steinfeld, who donated his time to come up with a music track to simulcast to the drone show, but a lot of people we heard didn't hear it because the internet was buffering. It was on KX and Voice of Laguna. Napa had the same issue. They ran it through YouTube. So I think if we were to do another drone show, we'd definitely look at having speakers in select areas. Again, that's another cost. And we can't cover the entirety of, you know, Heisler Park all the way south past Main Beach. On the plus side, we did hear a lot of positive comments. People could see the show from about 3 miles away up in the hills. We didn't have the issue with the smoke, where a lot of the people up in that area said normally with fireworks, after about the first, you know, 5 minutes of the show, all they see is smoke, whereas they could see the entire drone show clearly from further away. So definitely pros and cons. But yeah, you're not alone among city councils that are battling with the same decision.
Jeremy, you worked on this. Is there any benefit to going to the drones? Is it going to get better over time? Has it gotten better since we had our drone show in terms of the industry itself, the cost, the time it takes, batteries?
Yeah, I mean, I'm speculation here, but I'm confident that there's enough of an industry there that we will see improvement over time with the technology, battery duration, as well as just visual display. I mean, right now we're at a 1 megapixel, right? One drone is one light that changes colors, right? I mean, I assume that resolution will improve over time. And I mean, AI seems to be speeding things up rather quickly. So fasten our seatbelts. But yeah, I believe the industry is there for improvement in a few years.
Yeah, I mean, Michael, to your comments, I think that there were people who liked it a lot, but there was like, yeah, this is new, great. It's people that didn't like it really weighed in heavily. I'm leaving town. I'm not coming here, so there was a lot of emotion in there, missing the drone show because of its traditional nature. So I know I'm going to get a lot of heat for it, but I, as an environmentalist, I'm for going back to the fireworks because that's what the people want.
Do we need a motion for this, or are we just,
Do we need a motion?
I'm not sure.
Well,
Do we?
to the extent you're providing specific direction, I mean, you want it now, you'll have to come back later to get it.
I'll take it now, please.
We'll do it now.
I'll move that we go back, to the fireworks for the 2025 4th of July celebration.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then additionally, we'll follow up in contacting the hotels to see if there's any partnership opportunities as well. We received that.
Thanks, you guys. Good.
Thank you.
Good staff report. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Brendan.
Greg, don't you have a drone? Don't you have a drone?
Why don't you do the drone show? We're at Aliso.
We need an exploding drone show.
Okay, item number 21 is the donation policy and naming policy for public properties and facilities. Who's gonna do this, Gavin? All right.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Just see if I can't. I have a very brief presentation, but so the item before you tonight is a donation and naming policy, and kind of go over the purpose of both the policies, really just briefly. On the donation policy, it's really establishing guidelines for accepting donations of money, property, in-kind contributions, and that it really is to help ensure a transparent and consistent process. On the naming policy, it really guides naming and renaming of properties, city facilities, ensures the name reflect kind of community values as kind of outlined in the policy, and it helps, again, facilitate a very consistent and respectful naming process. I apologize, I may have skipped. Here we go. On the donation policy, just some general guidelines. They're kind of all outlined in the policy itself. But for some general guidelines for donations, on the donation side, donations would be submitted to the city manager's office for review, and then referred to an appropriate department if that was actually necessary. The city manager could accept donations up to $5,000. Anything above that amount would come, of course, to the city council for approval. Donations can be declined if they don't align with city priorities or are too costly. The city can recognize donations with plaques, letters, kind of other forms of recognitions. And donations don't grant special privileges or any influences once granted. Again, the types of donations we receive: monetary, in-kind donations, planned giving, which are from your trusts and bequests, and then real property donations as well, something that we did earlier tonight in the meeting. And then, of course, once they make the donation, donations do become city property. I did want to mention that I talked about in the report and the policy, future updates, kind of art donations aren't in this policy. They'd come forward as part of the public art ordinance, which is expected early next year. And park benches and memorials, we would address those at a future update to this donation policy. Those are just a little more complicated and need a little more time for staff to review. On the naming policy side, criteria, cut it for naming. So the council can always consider naming of public property, parks, buildings, and facilities. The policy doesn't include a naming of any streets. Names should reflect local wildlife, flora, natural landmarks, kind of also if the naming celebrates Laguna Beach's history, significant events or cultural heritage, enhancing a neighborhood identity, kind of honoring individuals' significant ties or contributions to Laguna. Naming rights may be part of an approved fundraising effort for city projects. Again, recognition can include plaques, dedications. Of course, these would be subject to the guidelines included in the policy and donation policy. And the city may rescind naming rights at any time. The city council can. Kind of just real quickly, the naming procedures. When you submit a name request, you'd submit a detailed rationale with community support. And that's usually letters associated with that to the city manager's office for review. The city manager's office can then refer those to the appropriate committee to take another review of that naming request. Constant consent required from individual and family members. So if you have a naming request, we want to make sure the family member or the individual being audited actually consents to that request. And of course, city council approval is required for any naming. Naming rights would last for 10 years unless the council specifies otherwise. And the council can always renew that for a longer period of time if they want to, once the 10 years is up. And a request, of course, can be denied if they don't meet certain criteria. Of course, the criteria outlined in the policy, they conflict with the municipal code, policies, or other values of the city. And again, naming of park benches, other small amenities will be addressed at a future policy update. We just didn't include those in this update. And so recommended next steps is just to receive feedback from the city council on the proposed policies, make any revisions to that policy, get feedback. And then the council could approve the donation naming policy tonight or direct staff, depending on the number of changes made, return back with the updated version, incorporating, of course, city council and comments and feedback.
Great, thank you, Gavin. Questions for Gavin? Hey, Gavin.
We, for the donations for naming a city building, are we putting, I mean, it's kind of a bidding process, really. It's like I offer a certain amount of money to put somebody's name on a building, and the council says yes or no. We're not putting a price on any of these buildings, and it only lasts 10 years unless it's negotiated.
Correct.
Is that correct?
That's correct. There's no amount for naming for large. You could do a large donation, but there's no amount that dictates what requires that the council consider a naming. You could, and again, there's lots of ways to consider a name for a public facility.
I mean, if you renamed Heisler Park, somebody came up with $1 million and said, I want to rename Heisler Park in my dead wife's honor or something. and I'm going to give the city $1 million to do that, would come to the council and we would say yes or no. You know, what would the conditions be, if any, right? What would the money be used for? We would determine that, right?
Absolutely.
Improve. Okay.
Absolutely. All the naming for any facility would come back for the council's approval. And even the donation, because it exceeds the 5,000, would come to the council for approval as well.
So what is excluded from donations? You mentioned here earlier that you could donate art. Is there exclusionary? An antique car? Could you donate that to the city, or would you? Well, I don't know. I mean,
so
you're raising money, right? So
Councilman Weiss, so to what's excluded, I mentioned two things. One, the artwork, that's coming back as part of the public art ordinance. The other was sometime the council did have a policy on acceptance of park benches or naming park benches and things. It required a little more work on staff's part to kind of review that policy and bring some recommendations to the council. For example, you could name a park bench or donate a park bench, but it only lasts, say, the 10 years, but you might have to pay for maintenance, or there's only certain areas or certain benches that the council would consider that you could name or donate to. So it just required a little more work. So when I say it's coming back, we're going to come back with some update to that. It just need a little more work on our side. And when you get to donating, I want to donate my old vehicle to the city. We don't accept those types of donations. So that would be, it doesn't really fit with what the city is requesting. Plus, if we accepted a vehicle, let's say someone says, hey, I've got a great vehicle. We would say, well, we need enough money to maintain it for the period of time for the rest of its length. So not only you donate the vehicle, but you would have to donate enough maintenance and funding to cover the maintenance costs for those things, just to give you an example of what could occur. And the city could just, like a vehicle, would just say no to that donation as well.
So it's really property or money. Those two things really are the categories.
Well, and it can be in kind, right? Property usually, or money is your typical donations.
What would be the in kind that you mentioned?
Well, somebody could donate a piece of equipment or buy a new piece of equipment. We've received that where I'm not donating money, but I'm actually going to donate you a piece of equipment. I'll pay for it and then donate it to you.
Oh, okay.
It's like Mark and Steve doing the
Sure.
jet skis and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
The
Or exactly, Mayor.
Mhm.
And we've also had people donate artwork to wrap. I think we just recently had a donation of wrapping a tower. So those things are donations that the city council would consider. And then,
So let's say somebody donated $1 million for Heisler Park, and there's a Heisler Park, it changes to Bill Jones Park. Then you have to change all of the other stuff that goes along with Heisler out in the internet and everywhere else. That's a cost too. So, but we're okay with that too. Yes.
well, it's all these donations would come back to the
Okay.
council once the
All right.
council considers. But Councilman Weiss, you raised that point where if there is an associated cost or maintenance to some type of donation, it may be something the council may consider, where if you do give $1 million for something, a building or for equipment, the council may ask, well, in order to maintain that, we need to have additional or an agreement to provide additional donations to maintain it.
I mean, I'm fine with the program. I'm just asking a 10-year plan on these things, and then it changes to someone else, or it reverts back, or it stays the same. Right?
It would revert back, and it's up to the 10 years. Like I said, this is really a proposal for the
You
council to
wouldn't want to
consider.
revert back because that's another cost you're assuming.
The council could always extend that, of course, as long as you would like. It's really a council decision to make. But the 10 years was kind of a limit put on it, but the council can always extend those. But depending on the property, 10 years may seem more reasonable, and then it reverts back, and then it can be.
Okay. Is that 10 years common in other cities? Is this where you came?
It was something when we put this together, we looked at what the city had done historically, and then we looked at other city policies, other cities in the surrounding area, and tried to incorporate some of those. 10 years was common, but again, it's really up to discretion of the council how long. It was these are more, they're in line with what we've done historically and added in some additional policies based on at least what I read, some of the other cities had done, and these are suggestions as well for the council to consider.
Thank you for being patient.
Gavin, when we did the Suzie Q, was the naming part of the deal? I guess it was, huh? Yeah.
I believe so.
And Sue and Bill Gross, their emergency room, that was a Mission Hospital thing. That had nothing to do with City of Greenwich, right?
I don't recall that particular
Yeah.
donation, but
Yeah, yeah. And so we're gonna find spots where we get these requests all the time when someone passes away, like, I want to have a bench, and then we don't have any benches, or, we don't have anything, and then people want to have something made and have it put somewhere, and so how are we gonna do that? We're gonna have designated places where we'll allow a bench or some kind of, I don't know, recognition area that would be, like, one thing that's kind of cool is, we have, well, they look horrible now, but in the alley, we have all those bricks, and it has people's names in them. Maybe we should do something, we find a place where we can do that, because I don't know how we get a lot of people who want to do that. And then when my mom passed away, I was thinking, I'd like to put something nearby me that I could see of hers, but anyway.
Yeah, like I think Newport, they just did a junior guards headquarters, and I don't think there's a name for the headquarters, but there's like I think there's a wall with all the people who donated. So like something like
Suzie
that.
Q has that.
Yeah. Or
Which is great.
We have the stones in that alleyway,
Yeah.
But I think that my problem with this program is that it comes to us and then we start, oh, well, you're going to have to give a lot more for Heisler Park than you're giving.
Well, I don't-
We're becoming a negotiating
I don't think-
process.
I don't think we're gonna rename Heisler Park.
think we're renaming Heisler
I don't
Park.
know that even Heisler's on the agenda, but
No.
you said all.
No, I could
No.
just see that as a headline.
No,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't think there's
We would
any way to
rename
do
No,
that.
but like,
Park for
But,
$10 million.
but maybe to help with a capital construction campaign, somebody wants to name a
maintenance.
apparatus bay after someone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, those are reasonable.
a lot of
things,
money
I think.
sloshing around here. Anybody
Good
have anything
point, yeah.
else?
Yeah,
Bobby,
that's-
everything?
the one thing I want to add is that the facility master plan workshop that George, you and I were at, I don't know if you were here for the animal part, but what I learned was that there was someone who wanted to give us $3 million to do a new animal facility. So it's like, that's a great like, well, it could be whoever wants to give it their name, animal control facility. So like opportunities like that, I think are
Yeah.
something we should embrace.
I think you're right. I think there's reasonable opportunities, but renaming like Heisler and then having to negotiate something like that, it's.
I don't think we should rename, yeah,
Comfortable.
Yeah, I don't.
I agree. I don't think we should.
Something they're off the table.
I think
don't-
like new things is where we should be focusing the naming
Yeah, the
opportunities.
new stuff.
Not changing anything that we have.
Okay,
Bobby, got anything?
okay, so
I just had a couple of cleanup items here that might be worth, so on page 4, let's see, I'm sorry, page 7 of our staff report, which is page 4 or 5, park benches and memorial donations. I think the language probably needs to be tweaked a little bit. It says maybe that in part B, it says donations of park benches will be made during an update to this policy. I mean, that something's not reading right there. So maybe that B should be criteria and just say donations of park benches and so on will be made in accordance with an update to this policy, something like that. And then there's just a typo, I think, on
Here comes the
page
attorney.
9. Yeah, this is good. I only found 2. On page 9, under general policy, the second to last paragraph, in the last line, it says meets the needs of the community and services a public purpose. I think it probably meant to say serves a public purpose. Just see where that is, Gavin.
So what are
last
you,
paragraph, right?
what are you saying there, Bob?
Just change the word services to serves a public purpose.
Okay, so, okay,
Yeah.
Oh, public.
yeah, consistent, okay.
That's it.
Okay.
Look good otherwise.
Open public hearing, closed public hearing. Okay. Should we have an emotion here?
I'll move to recommended action, although I think this is gonna come back. It's gonna have some hair in it down the road, but I'll move to recommended action. Yeah.
Bob's amended.
With the changes
correction.
Bob has outlined.
I'll second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nice work, Megan. Thanks for getting us together and staff for getting us together. Gavin, for getting it together so quick.
Thanks, Gavin. Gavin did the heavy lifting. I don't want to take.
Huh?
I said Gavin did. the
Oh,
heavy
Gavin did,
lifting.
okay. Way to go, Gavin. Okay, 22 is the designation of a voting delegate to the League of California Cities.
I'd like to nominate Alex. He's been more of our regional representative for so many things. I think it's a perfect match for him if he's willing to take it on.
I agree with that.
Well, I'm already going, so it's perfect.
That's good. Open the public hearing, close the public hearing. Bob?
Typically, I think, I'm fine with Alex going. So you're going anyway, right? So
yeah, I'm going
That's
anyway.
perfect. I think though, the stuff they send you from the league, it's the mayor, so you're gonna have to designate Alex.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Will we have anything coming up here? Oh, it's the annual conference.
There's just one resolution that Alex would vote on.
Yeah.
That met the filing deadline. So I'm
Okay.
sure it'll be a quick meeting.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, can I have a motion? I'll move, we designate Alex as our
I'll
voting
second that.
all in favor?
Aye.
Next, we have Appeal A, which is a continuance of Morningside, let's see, what's the address? 1536 Morningside Drive 2, the next council meeting, which is October 8th. Any questions on the continuance or anything, anybody?
No.
I'll open the public hearing. I don't see anybody. I move the recommended action, move it to October 8th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, I have one council member item tonight, and so in the Laguna Beach County, Little Beach Canyon Foundation, Laguna Canyon Foundation Board meeting the other night, we had a lot of interest in Proposition 4. In Proposition 4 is a $10 billion bond, and it has, here's the key goals. Drought, flood, and water supply. So increasing the amount and quality of water available to people to use and reduce the risk of flooding. That's 3.8 billion. Forest health and wildfire prevention, improve the health of forests and protect communities from wildfires. It's 1.5 billion. Sea level rise in coastal areas, reduce the risk from sea level rise, restore coastal areas and protect fish, 1.2 billion. Land conservation and habitat restoration, 1.2. Energy, support the state's shift to more renewable sources of energy such as offshore wind, that's 850 million. There's one for parks here, expand, renovate, and repair local and state parks. Extreme heat, reduce the effects of extreme heat, that's 450 million, and farms and agriculture, that's 300 million. So it's $10 billion. I read the legislative analysis on it, so I just wanted to see if you guys were interested in having a staff report on it and bringing it back in October 8th. If that's the case, we
Sure.
could encourage people to vote for it.
Sure.
Everybody
Yeah.
okay with that?
Yep.
Yeah. I'm
Oh,
fine
good.
with it.
I have two items, I think.
You got two, okay.
Yeah, so one is, I was looking through my notes. Oh, sorry, do you want to go ahead, George? I
Go
don't want to
ahead.
interrupt. Okay. When Sean Joyce was here, he gave us recommendations about how we could be a more effective city in how we do things. And one of the recommendations was about having clear guidelines related to our boards, commissions, and committees. I'm also interested in looking at the training for them. And when you go on the website for the commission, board, and committee member training, you click on the handbook and it's last updated in 2021. So I'd like to work with someone to update that, but then also to, there's a planning commissioners academy through the League of Cities that I think would be really good for both our design review board and our planning commissioners to go to if they're interested. And so, because they talk about good things like CEQA, objective standards, while also preserving local controls, streamlining. And so in talking with the city attorney, part of that would need to be looking at our AB 1234 policy for reimbursement. So I guess my recommendation would be to bring back an item where we would update our committee handbook and then also have, implement the opportunities for this training. So do you want to work with me on that, George?
Well, I'll go along with that to bring it forward. I have one myself. I think about 6 months ago, I got approval from the water board to put $10,000 into a allocated toward building a demonstration garden for native plants. And I'd like the city to add 10 or 20 to that because it's necessary to train staff as well. And I don't think we'll spend all that money, but we've got a perfect spot at Heisler to do it. And I think native plants are the future of landscapes where we can put them in reasonably, but it's going to be a learning curve because it's not easy to do it and to maintain them and to train the city staff on how to do them. But I'd like to have that as a discussion item if anybody agrees.
A discussion about just native plants and our protocols.
Yeah, it would be to create a demonstration garden at Heisler.
You
at
have
the
a space
gazebo.
in mind, right, Councilmember?
Pardon me?
You have a space in mind?
I do. It's right in front of the gazebo. It's kind of an oblong space that's now constricted. Public doesn't go into it at all. Would have to restrict it as well. So people don't walk into it. But it would be highly visible to the public as well as residents to inspire them to build their own native plants or to integrate them into their landscapes. It's also water-wise and fire safe. The native plants have evolved here for 3 million years, so they're pretty hardy.
I'm supportive of that.
Yeah, support bringing it back.
Are you guys supportive of my item?
Yeah.
The updates.
And remind me, Mayor Pro Tem, that was update the committee handbook and include a requirement with, an AB 1234.
For the League of California Cities Planning Commission training
Yeah.
for our DRB and planning commissioners.
Okay. Thanks.
Could, I was always wondering though, because the planning commissioners, the housing laws are changing so fast that, I feel like the boards and commissions kind of lag.
Mhm.
So I don't know what we can do about that. Does the league have training on updated housing laws and things like that, where we could send them
Yeah.
to training?
They go pretty aggressively updating their
That's
training.
good because it's
Yeah.
it's hard for us to keep up. But
Yeah.
I know it's hard for them because
Yeah.
they're not living it all the time.
Yeah, I think that the Planning Commissioners Academy should have a housing discussion as part of the training. And then I think that you're right, the housing laws changed a bunch in the last 5 days. So I think we can also have the city attorney's office provide some training at their meetings too, just to give them updates on what the changes have been in the last year so that they're aware of them to the
I
extent that
think
they
it might
affect
be
them.
good if we had one for all of us, one day where we just
agree.
all come in here and you just
Yeah, I
give
agree.
us an update on what's happening with the housing laws. It's hard for us to keep up too.
Oh, yeah, we for sure.
Yeah.
To keep up
Can
with
do that.
Senator Weiner.
Yeah, there's been a lot of changes and every September.
And and then Sue and I were talking about this, and this relates to what Dave sent an email about today with homelessness. It seems like there's a lot of moving parts with, the Grants Pass decision with, I think, I don't know about, I think everyone's seeing more homeless people in our downtown. And so if we can kind of update our approach to that, and especially with our Be Well contract, I think ends at the end of June. So just starting to kind of update our strategy, and maybe that could the city manager could bring forward an item and we figure out how to go from there.
Oh, yeah, we look at Be Well, Friendship Shelter, ASL, talk with the police. We've been having a lot of conversations about this the last, month or so. 'Cause I do notice an uptick in homelessness here. It's definitely it's trending up.
Yeah, I think we should bring it back, and obviously Be Well's had some significant, events
Exactly.
occur in the
Bumps
last
in the
month.
road, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and we need to evaluate the effectiveness of that whole strategy, I think. So it's not
Okay.
it's not a small item though, so I wouldn't expect it on October 8th.
No, that can be a
Not coming on
longer
October 8th.
No, it's
term
not.
Yeah,
item.
we started to work on it anyway, but I respect the council's interest and encouragement there.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it doesn't need to be in October, but just
Bring it
so
back
that,
to
because
you.
I think we would need to start planning
Yeah.
for that
Yeah,
Definitely.
soon. So
yeah. Okay, everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
All right, so we are adjourned until October 8th, 4
Thank
PM
you.
closed session.